We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com. Welcome to another edition of AVRant. I'm Tom Andrew, and I'm here with
Rob H. This is AVRant. It's your home theater and AV questions answered.
Oh, he tried so hard to sound normal for a second there.
It's because the letter R is coming out really strange, and that's the first thing I'm going to say is my own name, and Rob comes out really hoarse and awful, and my voice, as you can tell, something is weird. I'm in no pain. I'm not feeling like particularly ill or anything. I don't know if it's just weather conditions or what all, but I've practically lost my voice. But,
so my
but here we
son
are.
has gotten 2 ear infections, one in each ear, over the course of the last week or something. And my wife and I were talking about it last night, and we think this has happened to him before, and he's the least sick of any person I've ever met. I mean, the boy, I'm sure he gets sick, but he's just like, no, I'm fine. So he's like Operation Power Through. He just does not ever admit to being ill. And he called us and he was like, yeah, I think I'm going to go to urgent care. We're like, did you get shot? But we think it's from this time of year when the seasons start to change and the humidity changes and stuff. You know, it's that time of year. So I wonder if that's what's going on with you.
I don't know. This doesn't usually happen to me. This isn't like a perennial normal thing, but I know some people's voices when, you get a particular pressure or humidity change or something like that. They very often sound like I'm sounding right now, all hoarse and raspy and lost voice. So I don't know what it is. Something in my throat is not working as normal. And so this is the voice you're going to get from Rob H this week. Sorry, I can't do anything about it. It feels like I constantly need to clear my throat, but there's no phlegm actually in there. So that could be fun. I might just involuntarily make that noise. You've been warned.
He's got the Rona. Let's all admit it. He's got the Rona.
It's not that.
I don't know. At this point, I don't know anymore.
Anyway, I was going to hum the Star Trek The Next Generation tune, but I'm incapable. I guess I could whistle it, but that might sound weird on the mic.
Why would we be doing that?
Well, I can show you this one. You know what? I'm not even going to attempt to pick up the other box because it is massive and heavy. But there is my gift with purchase of the.
I saw somebody putting that
with,
thing together, and it is not that, but the Enterprise one.
I have it here. I was going to pick it up, but it's too
massive.
Awkward.
It is
3,600 pieces for the Enterprise D. But it
they were like putting
like
Stanley water bottles next to it in order to
for scale.
To scale it.
Banana for scale.
Yeah. So yes, very exciting. So you have your Star Trek thing. That's good. We do have a little bit of news to start off with here.
Okay.
Apparently behind the scenes, and I don't know when or how this happened. And I get notifications from our host people for our websites and stuff like that, which also handles forwarding of emails all the time, saying that services are down or whatever. There was an interruption in service, but don't worry, we're working on it. And usually by the time I get the first email, I almost always have gotten the second email at the same time, which basically says, hey, we fixed it. So it happens rarely, but they're usually pretty on top of it.
Yeah, not the first time.
Yeah, but this is a little unusual. We got get messages from Richard and Glenn. They both noticed that we had never mentioned the emails they had sent us back in November. So that was over a month ago. And they were both kind enough to double check if we ever received their questions. We had not. And they didn't just go into a spam filter or junk folder. The emails just never arrived at all. So if you... we'll be answering their questions today. But if you send us a question, you're like, oh, that Tom and Rob, they suck. They don't answer all the questions like they say. Yeah, we answer all the questions we receive. So if we did not receive your question, we cannot answer it. So if you send us a question and we didn't answer it, and it's been over 2 weeks.
If it's been any amount of time, because we would have mentioned your name if we had the email and it was just on the list waiting. So thank you very much to Richard and Glenn because, for noticing and for being like, wait a second, I never even heard my name. What's going on here? So thank you for checking. But I mean, if there were those two there is definitely the possibility there were others who have just not gotten in touch with us since, and are just wondering if we are not purposely ignoring anybody's question. I guarantee you that. And so, yeah, it wasn't that it just went to spam or junk, which has happened in the past. I've got the question at AVRant email being forwarded to 3 different email addresses, and once in a while, it doesn't go to one of them, but that's why I have it going to 3 of them. And it didn't show up in any of those 3, and it didn't show up in any of Tom's either. So we don't know what happened. It certainly doesn't seem to be anything on the sender's end that was strange or anything like that. So it's just some email server glitch at some point. But yeah, if you're hearing this and you're like, well, yeah, I sent in questions like 3-4 weeks ago and just never heard my name ever mentioned. Please send it again. We are definitely not editing or ignoring or anything like that. And we want to answer those questions. Please send them a second time. Give us another try.
And this reminds me, because I've forgotten for like the last 2 weeks to mention this, but Julian has continued to add codes to my to the list, this document that he's created. He's created like a Word document that he shared with me, and then just adds images of codes to it for me to check for him, which we'll mention later if anybody else has done it, which I haven't scrolled down yet. And I did not mention that he's continued to do this over the last 2 weeks. Okay. So I apologize, Julian. It's not that I'm not paying attention. I am up to date as far as I know on checking your codes for you. And I will let you know that anything that starts with WB/redeem does not work.
Shocking.
They are like, nope. It's in the same place as the Batwoman movie. So Batgirl movie, or whatever they're calling it. So that's not working, but everything else is working. So or at least most of them are. So I want to personally apologize to Julian for not mentioning him, and to say thank you for continuing to update that, because I am paying attention. I don't know if you can tell the difference, but I've now got 2 lights in here.
Okay.
So I should be better lit than I have been in the past. I've also got I also put up a couple acoustic panels around this just little corner here. One of which is a little bit crooked, but I'm not comfortable with how it's hung, and I don't want to touch it because for fear of it falling.
Even acoustic panels couldn't help my situation this week.
No, you'd have to put them in your throat or something.
It's the source device. The source device is to blame.
So what's been going on with you, Rob, other than apparently contracting the plague?
Yeah, I don't know what is happening there. I feel like I've been really busy, but now that I'm trying to recall anything that's going on, it's just been, lots of Christmas shopping. I do the Christmas shopping for everybody in our family. I get reimbursed, but I do all the shopping, so I'm like tracking all the orders.
What are you talking about? You buy presents for everybody from everybody else?
That's right, yeah. I am.
That's insane.
I am the shopper.
What? That's insane. You're joking. That's insane. I've never heard of such a thing. What are you talking about?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Everybody trusts me for the online ordering, that things are actually going to arrive and get ordered correctly.
Are you the youngest person in your family? Is that the thing?
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess in our local family group, I am. Yes.
For the people that you're buying for, on behalf of, are they all older than you? Are you doing it for your parents and your aunts and uncles and stuff like that? Or are there people who are your age or around your age that you're also purchasing for?
On behalf
of, yes.
Well, I mean, I guess the only younger ones are my niece and nephew, and then my
so you're buying stuff
once removed. So
that your niece and nephew are taking credit for buying.
No, I'm not doing that. My sister does the buying for that. She does some buying, but all like aunts, uncles, my parents, and then even some for my sister and.
Do they give you a budget? They say, I want to spend this much on this person?
Reimbursed. They just reimburse me.
I understand that, but do they tell you beforehand, I would like to purchase for my sister something, and I would like to spend no more than X amount of Canadian dollars?
They usually say what they want to buy.
Oh, so you're just purchasing it.
I'm the ordering person, yeah.
Oh, okay. So they're not, when you say shopping, I thought you meant you were picking out all the gifts and everything.
I mean, I pick out stuff, that I'm giving, of course.
Of course.
And then
that makes sense.
Some other things are
I thought you were like, okay, what would my aunt give my mom? Let me think. And then you have to come up with a gift, and then you buy it.
Yeah.
Okay. They say,
a little of that.
I would like to purchase some socks, that have unicorns on them. Please find them, and I will pay for them.
Yep, that's about it. That's most of it.
That's less
Makes
insane.
a little bit more sense. Okay. But then, there's been... I mean, I guess it's not quite official 100% yet because I still have to get the lawyer to sign off on the final papers, but I'm basically mortgage free now. So I can make that happy announcement. So,
that's awesome. That means you can start saving up for a house.
There's that.
Or you can spend it all on Legos, I suppose.
It's probably going to be a new car first, honestly. You've
been driving that. It's the same little car that you've been driving this whole time, right?
It's not that little. I drive a Ford Edge, so it's not that small, but it's been 15 years. It's been 15 years I've had that car, so.
That's good, man. That's awesome. I have not had a car for that long in a long time because we keep driving them through salt water. But now that we don't live there anymore, that won't happen, hopefully.
So anyway, it feels like there's been a lot going on, but ultimately not that much. But there you go. That's been my neck of the woods. How about Tom?
Well, I'm still doing house stuff. So I sent Rob a picture. I don't know that he's going to share it on here because I probably didn't.
You did? Where? When?
I sent you a picture of a rug. So my home theater now has a rug.
Okay.
Which is fine. You don't have to share it.
I didn't think to load that up, no.
Yes, don't worry about it.
Okay.
Anyways, it's amazing to me how many things that we as human beings don't know, and then we learn, and then just to never have to know it again. And one of those things is how to cut a rug pad. So I was like, I did some research, and it's like you want to cut 2 inches, 2 inches around the side of the rug pad so the rug can kind of hang over, and then you use a little sticky stuff.
Smaller than the perimeter of the rug itself.
Which I thought meant 2 inches total. Like, line it up to like 2 corners, or 2 edges, and then, outline it so that you have the rug pad being the exact same size as a rug, and then take 2 inches off of one side and 2 inches off the other side. It is not.
Yeah.
So I have a rug pad that's got a rug on it, and also now it has a couch on it that I have to move everything off of it, and then cut it down another 2 inches.
Little raised flapping ends on the sides when it's only 1 inch.
I actually got it from Wayfair. I think I got it from Wayfair, and it looks sort of like it does in the picture. It's not, the colors aren't quite as vibrant as I wanted them to be. Okay. But I like yellow. Everybody knows that. So the rug is primarily yellow and gray, which kind of goes along with what I don't really care what it goes along with. I like it. So that's in the home theater. And I'm using this as sort of, because we have to buy more rugs for this house. We need one for the bedroom and one for the living room area eventually. That one will be much later in us buying it, because we need to finish buying the furniture and then kind of tie it all together with the rug, or do something else with the rug. I don't know. Anyhow, so I did that. I mean, I installed those doorbell cams. I did that this week. I ordered 2 of those, one for the front, one for the back. The one for the front was very easy. For those of you that are interested in those doorbell cam, like Ring things, I did not get Ring. I did not get the Google version of Ring, or maybe Ring is Google. I don't know. There's other ones out there that exist, but almost all of them,
I think Ring is Amazon,
require a subscription.
Yeah.
So they save all your videos online in the cloud, and then you if you don't get them within this like an hour, most of them, if you don't download them within an hour, they disappear unless you pay for the subscription service. Okay. And I'm like, well, first of all, I don't really care that much about downloading these things. I don't care about that, but I'm sure as heck not going to pay for a subscription service.
Right.
It's just absolutely not going to happen. So I went out and did some research and found the TP-Link.
Yeah.
They're Tapo cameras, doorbell cameras, and they have an SD card, which you have to buy separately, which I bought the biggest one that it would take, which is 512 gigs. Those were like $40 for those SD cards. So, I mean, it's almost the price of the stupid camera. I think the camera itself was like $50 or maybe $50, $60. Anyways. And it's like one thing after another, right? You just think that it's going to be pretty easy. And I installed one in the front. There's the door frame right there, and it's nice and flat, and you clean it off, and there's like a double-sided sticker thing, and you stick the mount to it, and it sticks right there really easily, and then you put the camera on there, boom, bada bing, bada boom, you're done, right? But the back doesn't have that, so we want one for our back of our house because we are in the alley, and people come up to the house and they don't know how to let us know that they're there, so they can come in because you can't park on the front. The front is just to make sure that nobody's breaking into the house, or if somebody does come that way. It's mostly Amazon deliveries or FedEx or whatever that comes to the front of the house. But we didn't have a doorbell, and occasionally, like a neighbor will come over and knock on the door, and we don't know what to do. It's like it's been like 20 years since anybody knocked on my door, so that was like a person I would open the door for. So I wanted to put one in the back, but there's no flat space out there. It's all stucco and cinder block. And I'm like, okay, so I'm trying to figure out how to do this. And, you're like, now I have a $10 masonry bit that for my drill that I use twice, once for the bolt on the top and once for the bolt on the bottom. And I'll probably never use it again. Just so I can install the anchors in there so I can anchor this thing. Believe me, that thing ain't never coming off. You'll probably stand on it and it'll never come off. It's like their sheer strength is like 800 pounds or something ridiculous like that. But I've been doing stuff like that. We installed lights, the lights on the front of the house. I was talking about that a little bit last week. Mm-hmm. So now we have permanent lights out there. Those are working pretty well. Still reviewing those, in the midst of the review of those. Since Rob had problems with his Sofabaton asked me to set up mine to make sure that mine didn't have any problems, and it did not. I've been using that for this week. We can talk about that later if you wish.
Yeah.
So the X2 review is in process. I've actually gone through the first draft of Andrew's review of the X2.
Exciting.
And
what sort of ETA can we say by the time people are hearing this podcast? It might be.
I think they don't want it out to like the 19th. I think that the NDA, it's not like an NDA, but it's like we don't. I think it's something like that. So they don't want any published reviews.
I haven't seen that or heard that. So
well, I might be wrong about that, but anyway. Anyways, we're not doing a full review of anything until we get the clear from them, and it's not because it's usually because they want if you think about it like books when they get released and stuff like that, they send out a bunch of advanced copies and everything up, and they want all the reviews to hit at the same time so that they get traffic, the search engines, they're just trying to game the system, which I completely understand and appreciate because it's silly, but that's just the way the world works.
And I guess I can't remember what was said on the podcast and what wasn't, but last week I didn't mention how ultimately, between Sofabaton's engineers and myself, we were not able to revive my review unit.
That was not mentioned on the podcast last week. You were still waiting to hear from them.
So there you go. So I can do that update then. Yeah, I'm forgetting what happened when exactly. Yeah. But so unfortunately, we were not able to revive my review unit. So a replacement is on its way to me. But obviously, I can't do a final review on my end until I physically have one that is fully functioning. So that is the status as of this week for my side of things.
Keep checking AV Gadgets because there's going to be two reviews basically on there. There's going to be Andrew's review, which is somebody who reviewed the X1, X1S, and now the X2. He's also big and a little bit bigger, and not big, but he's bigger into home automation than most people are. I think than 90. I mean, nobody's in the. Very few people are really that much into home automation. The biggest thing that I've seen that people do with home automation is they use their, voice assistant to turn on their system as they're walking into the room.
Oh, I see. As far as home theater integration goes.
Yeah, home theater.
Because certainly a lot of people are using automated lights, if nothing else, and then thermostats and doorbells.
Yeah, I tried to install one of those this week too, and that was a failure. That did not work. I'm thinking I'm going to have to hire somebody because it requires.
And so you said when you got around to using your X2, you were mentioning this last week, that you were going to see if it was able to control those lights that you put on your house.
I have not been able to control those lights myself yet. Okay. So I gave my wife, I said, hey, sign up with my email address, and you can control them. And then, because I actually, she's the one that really was interested in having lights out front. And I thought, well, if I give it to her to start with, we'll see how somebody who really doesn't do this sort of thing all that often, how they interact with it. Number one, and number two, then we'll see how easy it is to give me control over it. So she shared access with me, but for whatever reason, my app won't control the lights, and I don't know what exactly is stopping that from happening. And then she got to the point of, the lights go on from a certain point and turn off at a certain point. And that's all she'll do. Like, I'm like, well,
good enough.
Like, what color are they going to be? She's like, what do you mean you don't know?
Default. Whatever the default is.
She's like, well, you can make them be like Christmas colors, but I haven't done that. I'm like, but why? Isn't that the whole point of this thing? And anyway, so that's still in progress. Okay. Last week I was at the Improv Theater doing shows or rehearsals 5 nights last week. So I've been a little bit on the busy side.
Yeah, no, I'm curious to see how that goes, just because as far as like what's just in the Sofabaton app, pre-programmed and ready to go, is only Philips Hue lighting.
Right.
As far as IP, Internet Protocol controlled things over Wi-Fi are done. But there is a whole ability, first of all, through Home Assistant. That's one way that you can control IP-based things on your network with the Sofabaton hub system and the app. But if you're not using Home Assistant, which I don't believe you are, right, Tom? You're not into the Home Assistant.
No.
They have a whole thing where you can like manually just input an IP address with IP-based control, like programming language, which for us is going to be like some copy and pasting because we don't really know how to type that out for ourselves, but it's relatively easy to find those things already posted that you can just sort of copy and paste in there. So I'll be very curious if you take on that project, Tom, and see if you can get it all functioning from your Sofabaton, either just through the app or from the wand itself. Have your outside lights synchronized with your inside home theater.
Yeah, there's not a lot of reason for me to want to do this, to be honest with you. I'll be honest with you, other than just to know whether or not it can be done.
Yeah, you're watching a movie late at night and you're like, hey, I forgot to turn the Christmas lights off, and I can do that from the remote I'm holding in my hand. There's your excuse.
There's my excuse. All right. So what did we watch this week, Rob?
Yes, I watched one movie this week. It was from last year on Apple TV. What used to be Apple TV Plus is just Apple TV, the streaming service now.
But that is movie... at all. It's confusing to you because you're stupid, but for the rest of us, it's totally easy to understand.
Everybody else gets it. It's only I who am a little confused by that. But no, I watched the movie Argylle. So that is directed by Matthew Vaughn, who you would know as the director of the Kingsman movies and X-Men First Class. And so, yeah, I remember this movie getting absolutely panned by critics. And I was like, I'm just curious what this is really going to be about, because I saw some people who really quite liked it, but then the general consensus seemed to be absolutely panning it. So here's the thing. I can kind of understand both sides because what Argylle is too long. It is definitely too long. There is no reason for this movie to be nearly 2.5 hours. But it is a like spy thriller spoof. It's a parody. So it's like the Kingsman movies already had a lot of humor in them, and they were already over the top. And this Argylle movie is like kind of even a little bit loosely related. It's almost like, I think it's like weren't there fictionalized Argylle novels within Kingsman? And so then this is...
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, okay. This is, well, it's all kind of weird, but like, this is a farce. But the thing is, it doesn't reveal itself as being a full-on farce until the final half hour. And so for the 2 hours preceding it, you're like, is this just kind of a bad spy kind of comedy movie? And then in the last half hour, it's like, oh, it's a full-on farce. I didn't notice. Not that I didn't notice, but like, I didn't know for sure. Like, was this trying to be a spy comedy movie with just way too many twists? Is that what it was trying to be? And it's like, oh no, it is a full-on 100% farce. It's a satire. But I didn't know that until the last half hour for sure. And so it's like, I can definitely see why I was kind of close to just turning this movie off because I'm like, this is just stupid. Like, there's a twist every 5 minutes. So it's like everybody's just going back and forth. They're the bad guy now. They're the good guy now. They're the bad guy now. They're the good guy now. This person's dead. This person's alive. This person's shot. No, they're not really shot. This person you thought shot them. They weren't the one who really shot them, but it turns out they really were the one who shot them. And it's just like back and forth and back and forth. It was just like, it was so much that I was like, okay, this is just dumb. And it wasn't being a full-on farce yet. But then in the final half hour, it went full comedy farce, and it kind of won me back. It was so ridiculous in the final half hour that I was like, I was kind of enjoying myself. But then I was thinking back, and I was like, would I have enjoyed myself to this extent if the previous 2 hours hadn't existed the way they did? And I was like, yeah, there was no reason for the previous 2 hours to exist the way that they did. Like, this could have been just a full-on spy comedy farce the whole time, and I would have enjoyed it more if it had been closer to the way the final half hour was for the entire movie, and the movie should not be 2.5 hours long, then I think I would have enjoyed it more. So, yeah, I'm very kind of torn on it. The thing is, because 4/5 of this movie are not super duper fun and really just come across as kind of stupid, it's like, it's kind of hard to recommend this movie. It's like, what was the payoff of the last half hour so uproariously funny that it was really worth enduring the 2 hours prior? I'm like, not quite. Like I say, it almost won me back, but I don't think it won me back the entire way. So it's kind of weird because, I mean, this has a stacked cast in it. All right, it's Bryce Dallas Howard, she's the main star, and you got Sam Rockwell, you got Henry Cavill, you got Catherine O'Hara, Bryan Cranston, you got Samuel L. Jackson, who shows up for a little bit. John Cena's in it, of course, because he's in absolutely everything for the past 2 years. And so it's like, yeah, absolutely stacked cast. And during the first 2 hours, I was like, did none of these people read this script? Like, how did you get them to sign on to this movie? Because the writing, like the dialogue is bad. It's like, it's bad dialogue. And the way that they treat Bryce Dallas Howard's character is like, so the whole premise is that she's a spy novel writer, but so she's writing this series of books, the Argylle series of spy thriller novels, and it's like one of the things she writes in her latest novel comes so close to real life that the real life spies, like, you know, go after her because they're like, well, she must know something for real because this came so close to reality. That's the general premise of the thing. But like I say, everybody flops back and forth so many times in this thing that you're just kind of like, oh, who is what? Everybody's a spy. Nobody's a spy. No, they're all spy. No, they knew each other for no, they didn't know each other at all. It's like they're just back and forth. It's just absolutely ridiculous as far as it goes. And yeah, the dialogue is bad. And they treat Bryce Dallas Howard's main character like she is so stupid. Like, not just the other characters treat her like they're so stupid, although they do. The movie treats her like she is so stupid that the entire premise of the movie doesn't work for those first 2 hours, because it's like, wait a second, there's no way she could be this stupid and then have also written these novels. It's like, none of it adds. That's why I was darn near close to turning it off. But then once it just went, yeah, we are a full-on farce, it's like, it kind of makes the beginning of the movie make a little bit more sense, everything that led up to it. So yeah, overall, I find it very difficult. I don't think I can truly recommend it. But if now you know that you're in for a 100% farce and you can kind of watch it that way from the beginning, it's not quite as bad. It's like, it's less offensive when you know that it actually is a pure satirical farce as far as the movie, what it ends up being. So that's my review of Argylle. Yeah, watch it at your own risk, I guess. I
suppose. Yeah, I didn't watch much this week. Like I said, I was out almost every night this week. I did finish Ironheart last night, which I guess only had one episode left. I will tell you that from my 6 episodes seems to be just about right for a Marvel series.
That's short.
It is, and I think there's no reason why they couldn't have been longer, and they could definitely have done that. But I could tell you how they could have done it too. But for how they set this series up, that 6 was like just about right. So what do I think of the series overall? It was okay. That's sort of how I felt about it.
Should it have been a feature film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Or
could it have been a feature film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is the question. The answer is it could have. I mean, I think that I don't think it would have ended the way that it did. And if you remember, my early review of it was I didn't like the first episode that much because I didn't like where they started it. Well, guess what?
Right.
I didn't like where they ended it either. So basically, everything between I was kind of okay with. I like her relationship with Joe quite a bit. I thought that was very interesting. I thought that all the main characters are kids of other people that are important in the Marvel universe, or that are just children of people who are more powerful than them, sort of thing. Has that sort of feel to it.
It's a little bit of
quite a bit.
Shades of Runaways in that case, but
a little bit, yeah. And overall, I liked the design of her first suit, and I really liked the design of her second suit. Though, of course, it makes no sense that you could just take a car apart and turn it into that suit. But whatever. Hey, it's a Marvel movie. He built a particle accelerator in his living room. And
that's right. Yeah.
Iron Man 2, to make a new particle.
He was able to eyeball level with a bubble level accurate enough for a super collider. I mean, that's how they do it at CERN. They just pull out the bubble level.
Well, it was I was watching some social media, and they were talking about if we wanted to observe like the particles of the particles smaller than whatever they were talking about, they would need a super collider the size of the universe. It's like the whole idea is like the bigger the super collider, the faster you can get it moving, which means the smaller particle you can see coming off of it when it collides. So. I don't know what he was making, but it wasn't in the terms of particles very small because his super collider was so small. But whatever, it doesn't matter. So I look past all of that. I understand that they're setting up another, perhaps another series or maybe a movie or something like that.
That is Marvel's MO these days, all right.
But I don't love the direction, how they took the direction they kind of took the character in, as far as what she, how she ended up, what she ended up doing at the very end of it. I don't want to give it away for those of you that are still thinking that you might watch it. I don't think it was a waste of time. That's for sure. It's supposed to say. So if you liked the Hawkeye one, which is the spinoff, which is the what was the name of that series? Wasn't it just called
Hawkeye? Yeah.
That was just called Hawkeye? No.
Yeah.
It had to be called something else.
I don't think it was.
If you like the Hawkeye one, I like the Hawkeye one better than I like this one.
Oh, okay.
So if you're like, but if you hated the Hawkeye one and you thought it was stupid, well, you're not gonna like this one any better than that. In my opinion, I thought the characters as a whole were more interesting. They had bigger names in the Hawkeye one. Of course, they had Jeremy Renner and they had what's her name, who's playing the new Black Widow. Yeah. Well, Haley Steinfeld, and then they had the new Black Widow.
Florence Pugh.
Yes, Florence Pugh. And so they had, and of course, the Kingpin showed up in that one as well. There's no big names like that show up in here as far as characters go. So it's all new characters all the way through. So to me, that's a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, and it's a little bit more standalone in that case. Yeah, you don't feel like you have to have done all the homework beforehand in that case.
That's right. And the world in this, I feel like the story expands the Marvel universe in a way that is more interesting than what we have seen in most other Marvel TV shows and stuff, with the exception, of course, of WandaVision, which was amazing, and I will not take any questions on that. So this series really explores this idea that, because if you think about it, like Superman, right? Superman is undefeatable, right? He is, he can't be beat, physically, he can't be touched by anything. So what's his big, what is his kryptonite other than kryptonite is magic, right? He's more of a physical sort of thing. So magic can mess with him. And that seems to be what Marvel and a lot of other comic book writers do with the main villain against the main hero is not just stronger than them, but comes from a different place that they have to fight in a different way. So that's what happens here. Instead of her dealing with another technological person, which is, that's Marvel's MO. He's like, hey, are you Iron Man? You're going to fight an Iron Man suit that's bigger than yours.
Phase 1 and Phase 2, that was certainly the MO there.
This one was, are you an iron person? Well, you're going to have to fight against magic.
I see.
You're going to have to deal with that. So I like that. I think they could have explored it more. And I won't say there was a twist at the end because it had been spoiled for me. But the actor who plays who gets introduced in the final episode, I did not expect to see there. And I was like, is that who I think it is? Huh. Which was kind of amazing.
That's all going to be a surprise to me because I don't know.
It is definitely interesting. It's definitely interesting. And I think the possibilities of where they could go with this is pretty amazing. Will they go there? I don't know. But
was it like Kang showing up at the end of the Loki series level, or?
They hinted at who it might be. You kind of had an idea, but then it was a misdirect. It was a misdirect, and then we got a completely different character than we thought we were going to get. So
it is kind of crazy that all that Kang stuff is just going to be left hanging. It's just like they do the mention in Deadpool and Wolverine, and that's it. That's the end of Kang. It's a throwaway line.
Well, there's So if you look, I watch Movie Bob, who is a movie reviewer and stuff like that, and he's kind of my age. And generally speaking, I generally agree with the things with his reviews. Not always, but I generally do. He gets a little too hype about certain things. Like he gets very excited about movies coming out, and then I think he gives them a slightly inflated review. Though I generally agree with his reviews. Sometimes I'm like, dude, you're way too fanboyish over this thing. But one of the things he was talking about was he thinks that it was always going to be Kang was never going to be the big bad.
Nope.
Because
I don't believe it.
What was going to happen, and I might be wrong, but what was going to happen was that Kang was going to, because there was the Kang Dynasty movie or whatever that Kang War thing was, but the next one was Secret Wars, right?
Well, yeah,
supposed to come up.
I definitely believe it was all going to lead into Doctor Doom, but there was definitely going to be more Kang than we're going to get.
Oh no, that's what goes without saying. But the idea was in his mind was always that there was going to be Kang, all the way through that movie, and then right at the end, Doctor Doom was going to swoop in, basically, knock Kang out of it, and reveal that he is actually way stronger than Kang, and is going to be the next big bad. Yeah. Which, whatever, but it is Marvel. I mean, this is not their fault. You can blame Marvel for a lot of things, but
they could have just recast him. They recast other characters. The audience would be able to go along with having recast that character. And I thought that was silly. That was a silly thing.
I don't really care at this point. I'm like, I just want there to be good,
especially when it's
Marvel
a multiversal villain. Just recast him. I don't know why they felt like it was impossible to recast that character. Stupid.
All right, this is AVRant, the podcast that answers your home theater and AV questions. Get your questions answered. All you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com and come to the website. You can find our shows, our show notes, our links to products and articles that we'll be referring to here, as well as a Flickr album that you can follow along with any pictures that will pop up during our discussions. Contact us directly, Rob at you can find us at facebook.com/AVRant podcast, youtube.com/AVRant. All the pictures will be embedded in that video where you can see me with lights, I guess. I don't know. I think they're reflecting off my glasses.
You can read my lips if my voice isn't distinct enough this week.
Contact us directly, Rob at AVRant.com. His socials is at First Reflect. I'm Tom at AVRant.com. All right. Thank our listeners of the week. To become a listener of the week, support the podcast in some way. One of the ways you can do that is going to AVRant.com, click on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link, and send us a PayPal donation. This week, Glenn did that along with and sent in a note as well that says, thanks for the great advice and happy holidays to us both. So thank you, Glenn, for being our listener of the week.
Yeah, thank you, Glenn, for that PayPal donation. Really appreciate that financial support.
We also want to thank our 122 patrons over at patreon.com. Patreon is a service where you sign up to become a monthly contributor. Every month, they'll take some money from you and get most of it to us. So thank you to our 122 patrons.
Yeah, that is patreon.com/AVRant podcast if you'd like to sign up to make an automatic monthly donation. So big thanks to our 122 patrons over there.
So, again, we want to thank Richard and Glenn for double checking with us about their missing emails. And Glenn also talked to Dina at Ascend Acoustics that listening to our and told him that listening to our podcast helped him decide to go with his Ascend speaker purchase, which must have been confusing because we almost never talk about Ascend on this podcast.
Sure. Don't recommend them enough. But Glenn, thanks for listening to that and letting Ascend know that we sent you their way.
Again, I'm going to thank Julian for adding movie codes to the Google album that he shared with, I guess, us, but me specifically.
Yes.
He says there should be around 60 codes in there now. You can start deleting them, dude. I mean, you don't have to keep that thing going. It's getting big. But thank you, Julian.
Yeah, thanks, Julian. Very nice of you.
We got notes of gratitude for keeping the podcast going from Richard, who said that he's been an avid listener for over a decade. From Glenn, from John, who got in on the first round of Sofabaton X2 shipments to customers. It came with a note from Sofabaton that apologized for the delays, but also warned that these units that are part of the very first customer shipments will require a firmware update. So fingers crossed. Yeah, I didn't have any problems with that. It did take a few minutes,
sure,
but I didn't have any problems with that. Rob just doesn't know how to. He's just
it's definitely me. No familiarity with technology or firmware updates.
Julian, who says whenever his friends ask him how he's learned so much about home theater, he always answers the AVRant podcast. Christian, Dev, Steve, who says we've been a great sanity check over the years. So thank you to Richard, Glenn, John, Julian, Christian, Dev, and Steve for sending in notes of gratitude.
Yeah, I'll say the names one more time. We got Richard, Glenn, John, Julian, Christian, Dev, and Steve. Thank you all so much for the notes of gratitude and encouragement. We really appreciate them. And a big thank you to everybody for continuing to listen and sending in your questions.
Yeah, I'm starting to catch the Rob disease over the internet.
Oh, is it happening? It's coming through the StreamYard recording. It's going over the internet tubes.
Over the inner tubes. All right. In the news, I'm sure you haven't heard. This will be the first time you've heard of this.
Right. It's got to come from us.
We are on the forefront of this breaking news.
This is here so we can comment on it, Tom.
It's huge news this week, all having to do with the Warner Brothers Discovery. First up, Warner Brothers Discovery is going to split itself back into two separate companies. Warner Brothers will be the streaming and studios business, and that will include HBO, HBO Max. Do they still call it that? I don't really know what I thought it was just Max. Anyways, they keep changing it.
It's back
Warner
to
Brothers
HBO Max
Television, now. Warner Brothers Motion Pictures, and DC Studios, plus around $10 billion in debt. Mm-hmm. Why would anybody buy that? You should sell. You should just give it to me. And then there will be separately the Discovery Global, which will include the cable TV business. So Discovery Channel, CNN, TNT go into that group, along with around $20 billion in debt. This was all that was all prior news from a while back, but it sets the stage for announcements this past week. Warner Brothers Discovery has been looking to sell itself as a lot of potential buyers, but the new Paramount Skydance Corporation, owned by David Ellison, seems to be the most serious about acquiring Warner Brothers. Their offers were rejected, however. Then last Friday, Netflix announced that Warner Brothers has accepted their offer to buy the future Warner Brothers streaming and studios company for $72 billion. That would value the shares of that company at $27.75 a share. And then with the debt added on, the total price would be $82.7 billion. It's just stupid numbers. These numbers don't make any sense.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money.
But any such deal would have to go through regulatory approval, and there were immediate staunch critics of the deal on both sides of the political spectrum. Many people in the movie-making community also voiced their concerns, as Netflix's owners have been very clear that they do not view theatrical distribution as a priority. For their part, Netflix said they will continue to release Warner Brothers motion picture movies in theaters for the foreseeable future if the deal goes through. But the conspiracy theorists online are like loving this thing because it is like, look how they're trying to split the news cable organization off, and it's right before the midterms and blah blah blah. I'm like, you people are insane.
I mean, it doesn't require a conspiracy theory. This is about debt manipulation. That's what's going on here. Yeah, this is so really... David Zaslav can come out of this thing with a gigantic payday. That's what this is about.
That man deserves negative money, as far as I'm concerned. Negative money. Okay, so the real problem here, and maybe, I don't know if we talk about this later. I don't know. I haven't read this. But the real problem here is the whole idea that... and I know that this law or whatever was struck down a little while ago, but there was a law in the books that said that the movie studio could not own all three parts of a movie, which was the creation, the movie itself, the distribution of the movie, and the display of a movie. And, you know, the putting it on, you know, on a screen someplace. So the movie studio said, okay, we will control the movie itself plus the distribution, and then we'll let other people do the displaying. The theaters will be owned by other people. Well, a little while ago, they kind of struck that law down because our government is completely corrupt in this country.
Well, I mean, that was an expiring law, and they just allowed it to expire.
They just allowed it to expire, I know. But, you know, monopolies are now apparently okay again.
Definitely.
So Netflix is its own distribution. It does do its own displaying, and now it's already been making its own movies, but we've all been okay with it because, you know, it's their service and they're making it only for their service. But by acquiring Warner Brothers, now it looks a little bit more like a massive chunk of what we would normally find at the movie theaters may be walled behind Netflix, and Netflix prices, of course, will increase exponentially probably because of this.
I would imagine it's going to be huge. I mean, nobody has a clear idea if this particular merger / buyout goes through, Netflix buying Warner Brothers. Nobody on any side has made it clear whether like HBO Max is still going to remain a separate streaming service, whether it's going to be kind of like what's happened with Disney Plus and Hulu, where maybe there'll just be a Warner Brothers tab that is now part of Netflix, or maybe none of that. Maybe it all just merges together.
I think they're going to,
really unclear.
At least at first, I don't know what they're going to do, but at least at first, they're going to have to keep them separate. And that's just so that they can charge people twice, because they're not going to be able to double the price of Netflix or add, you know, $10 or $15 onto the price of Netflix right away. Instead, they'll say, okay, you're already paying for HBO Max. Keep paying for that. Also pay for Netflix. Our prices are going up a little bit. And HBO Max is going up a little bit. And that way, overall, we're going to be making more money.
No, it's just like HBO Max is not a small streaming service. There's a lot of content on HBO Max. So I mean, if Netflix and HBO Max were to just full on merge together into one, I mean that is huge. That is a massive service if they do that. But what folks over at Netflix did say is that they're like, hey, Warner Brothers Motion Pictures, we're not going to just like stop releasing Warner Brothers movies in theaters. They made that pretty darn explicit, but they did in the same breath mention that they're expecting to shorten the theatrical window and have those Warner Brothers movies show up on Netflix pretty darn quickly. All of which seems pretty expected, and you know, nothing particularly surprising in there. But that's all if that deal goes through. Now, what's important to remember there is that the two sides of that sale have agreed on it. Warner Brothers, currently still Warner Brothers Discovery, but Warner Brothers Discovery and Netflix, they agreed to that sale. So those two want this to happen, but that is still with the plan to separate Warner Brothers Discovery back into Warner Brothers and Discovery Global. Separate them back out, get rid of the cable TV services that Netflix does not have an interest in purchasing, and burden those cable TV channels with most of the debt of this company. 2/3 of the debt of this company is going onto those cable TV channels to just go off and die in a ditch somewhere. And then the movies and streaming is what Netflix is interested in. They'll still be taking on $10.7 billion in debt to do it, but that beats 33 point whatever billion dollars the company has as a whole right now.
Right. Yeah. Somebody's going to have, at some point, it's going to get so bad. It's going to get so bad that we're going to just all revolt and say, I'm not doing this anymore. I mean, that's what we did with cable networks, right? The cable services. It got to the point where we were like, I would just rather have a streaming service than, pay for a couple of streaming services than have to deal with all the commercials. Like, I go to my parents' house where they still have cable because they're old, and they've got TV on, or we're watching a football game or something like that. I'm like, I couldn't live like this. The number of commercials is just insane. Like, I can't deal. And the repetitiveness of it too. It's not even it's that. And then, of course, I do have Peacock, which does have commercials on it, but the only thing I use it for is Saturday Night Live, basically. Okay. And occasionally, if my wife's like, I heard that so-and-so had such and such on last night, on some talk show. Yeah. So we'll watch that. But half the time I'm going to find that on YouTube anyways. Sure. So it's going to have to stop at some point, and we're going to have to figure out how.
Well, there's more to this Warner Brothers Discovery story, though.
Okay, so then Paramount Skydance Corporation got into the fray in the major way. On Monday, they launched
because they've been trying to buy it this whole time, but their offers have been rejected. I think they said in the span of 6 weeks they made 12 offers, and those all got rejected. And Warner Brothers agreed to sell itself to Netflix, but Paramount Skydance is like, that's not the end. We're not going to accept that as an answer.
Yeah, and I had actually heard that they had offered more money than what the accepted thing was. But anyways, on Monday they launched a hostile takeover bid challenging Netflix agreement and taking their offer directly to the shareholders of Warner Brothers Discovery. They say they're willing to pay $30 per share, but in a notable change to the previous offers, they are also willing to take on the entire company without the cable TV channels being separated anymore. Naturally, this greatly complicates the landscape and isn't clear at all at this point, but by the time you're listening to this, it'll probably be totally clear how the future ownership of instruction of Warner Brothers will play out. So, whatever. Fight over it. I think you guys should have to put all your money in the middle, and then if they... whoever, the money that doesn't get accepted gets burned, because you don't deserve to have that much money. I mean, no one should have that much money.
On top of all of this, people hate it when we talk about U.S. politics, but that is absolutely embroiled in the center of this entertainment industry news thing, because whoever gets to buy Warner Brothers, it has to go through U.S. government regulatory approval, and it's kind of no secret whatsoever that the way you get approval for that is to just outright give a present to the president of the United States these days. And the Ellisons, Larry, so it's David Ellison who actually owns Paramount Skydance at this point, but his father, Larry Ellison, is the second richest man in the world, second only to Elon Musk. And
he's not after this.
He's good friends with Donald Trump, and also does a lot of business dealings with Jared Kushner, who is the son-in-law of Donald Trump. And so, Donald Trump publicly made the statement because, a reporter asked whether they're expecting the government to approve the Netflix Warner Brothers deal, and he said there could be some problems with that. After talking to his good friend Larry Ellison, who doesn't actually own any of this stuff, but his son does. And so, seems like even though Netflix, what was it? Their CEO also did some dinner meeting with Donald Trump on a personal level, and it was shortly after that they announced this sale. So, but there's the whole thing of whoever talked to the president last seems to get the deal that they want. Some
Man's
interesting
got a memory
stuff there.
like a sieve, to be honest with you. So. All right. Comments from our listeners. Gurinder followed last week's advice and he bought the wired HyperX Cloud 3 gaming headset for his son. His son was a little iffy about them at first. He was leaning towards wanting a wireless headset, but when he learned that he would need to plug in a USB dongle in order to use the microphone no matter what, he asked, "What's the point?" And they went with a wired headset. And he said that it may be the least coherent thing I've heard in quite some time. How does the dongle make a difference in this situation? He just doesn't want to plug anything in?
He doesn't want to have to plug anything into the console. I mean, because you would have to unplug from one console and plug into another, no matter what you're doing. So he's like, well, if I'm going to be unplugging and plugging something in no matter what, might as well just be a wired headset.
Yeah. The good news, he finds them comfortable and they sound nice, so he's happy with them and he wants to keep them. So yay. All right.
Yes.
Kids suck. As somebody who has them, you know, and it's not just kids, let's be honest with you. Anybody who isn't willing to do their own, you know, basic research on how things work and then demands that they have a thing that does a thing that doesn't make any sense for that thing to do.
That's asking a bit much in this case. It's kind of ridiculous sorting your way through all the features of what these gaming headsets do.
But the basic idea that you should be able to switch from one console to another with a headset without having to make a change in between those switching back and forth.
If you're used to smartphones and tablets and stuff, you don't have to plug dongles into those to change your wireless headphones working with any of them. I don't think that's an unreasonable expectation.
You have to. That's not true, Rob. Come on. If I have my wireless headphones or my speaker, right, and I have it connected to my phone, and then I want to connect it to a different phone, I have to disconnect it in the app or in the Bluetooth connections, and then go to the other phone and reconnect it.
But you don't have to physically unplug and plug anything in.
Okay.
It's all an app setting. In any case, as far as gaming headsets go,
that's all that matters.
Yes. Yeah. First of all, he's happy. Congratulations, and I'm glad for that. And I'm glad my recommendation resulted in a happy purchase. But I ended up with a wired gaming headset myself because I'm like, in one way or another, you're holding some kind of controller in your hands for any of these things. And thankfully, all of the modern game consoles, if it's not by default, there's at least an option to have a controller where you can just plug the headset right into the controller that you're holding. The controller is wireless, and that's a lot easier. And then if it's a Switch or a Switch 2 and you're actually playing it in handheld mode, plugging that right into the headphone jack is not such a problem. So in a way, I think the wired headset is the most convenient.
I agree. I mean, anyways, I do agree with that. I would rather have wired anyways, just for the lack of lag. Christian followed our advice and went with the LG B Series OLED since that allowed him to afford the larger 83-inch size. Thanks to Black Friday sales, he was actually able to afford the newest B5 model instead of last year's B4. It's great, exactly what he needed. So why was he so stressed out about possibly going down in screen size in order to afford the higher series like the C5 anyway? I don't know. Why were you? I don't know.
It's a rhetorical question, but I'll say it's because I don't blame you one bit. Because just look at the way the reviews are written and look at the hype that's out there online and the notion of you can't use an OLED in a living room. It's just not bright enough. And I'm like, that is utterly ridiculous. So somebody said we're a bit of a sanity check over here, and I like that. I like that description because I'm like, if you don't have the 6,000 nit display sitting right next to your B5 OLED, you're never going to look at that B5 OLED and be like, oh, that doesn't look any good. Like, it looks fantastic.
Yeah. So somebody tried to have a conversation with me recently about TVs because I told him I had bought a TV, and he was trying to ask the question, how much have TVs increased or decreased in price over the years? Like, if you bought a TV from 5 years ago, how much would that TV with those same features today cost?
Sure.
Like if they released one.
Yep.
And I'm like, it doesn't really exist, because, he was actually going back farther than 5 years. He's like, I'm like, it's like you can't get it. Like you can't get a non-smart TV right now. And
Definitely.
In fact, to get a TV that has the same features of like a TV of 10 years ago, no HDR, like no backlighting like zones at all.
Still get, just like edge lit. It might be compatible with HDR, but honestly, really can't show it. So that stuff just still does exist, and that is way cheaper now than the exact same size from the time when that was brand new. Because I mean, there was a time when edge lit TVs were the flagships, and they were not cheap. Right.
Yeah. So within the same size, the prices really haven't changed, I think, significantly. If you're looking at like the same, let's say, quality of within the line, like if the top of the line's a 50 inch TV, it's not that it costs significantly less or significantly more. A lot of times it's just got way more features than it ever did before. And like that sort of price point that people are like, oh, well, how much does a good TV cost? A good TV costs $500. A great TV costs $1,000, or something like that. Those numbers are still in people's minds for whatever reason. But in order to, but you just get a lot more for what you used to get
you definitely,
before.
10 years ago, couldn't just go out and buy a 98-inch TV.
Didn't exist.
That just didn't exist. So.
Yeah, it didn't exist. So, we just don't, like, normal people don't buy TVs that often.
No, why should they?
You just don't. So when you get back in, it's like I was talking about at the beginning of the podcast, you learn a skill. Mm-hmm. Use it, and then you immediately forget it. It's the same thing with TVs. Buying certain things like TVs, you're like, the last time I bought a TV, a good TV, like I'm thinking about when I was in college, right? A good TV, a decent TV was like $250. Okay. Like a really good TV, like a reasonable size, like 27-inch or whatever those CRTs were back there, then was like $500. You spent $500 TV, you got like, it might not be the biggest TV, but you got it had all the features that you could possibly want back then. And so fast forward, let's say 5 years, 10 years, you still have that number in your head, like $500. You can still go out and get a TV that's really good for $500.
Definitely can get a TV for $500, no question.
It's just a lot bigger and maybe doesn't have the flagship features, but it's still way better than that $500 TV you bought 10 years ago.
I'd say for the dollar, we are getting a heck of a lot for our TVs these days.
Yes. And what I tell people, because they don't understand bikes, but when I tell people when they're buying bikes, I'm like, bikes are like TVs. They can't really hide the price. So if there's a 50-inch TV that's $500 next to a 50-inch TV that's $1,000, you don't have to like, I wonder if that one's better. It's better. It is better, because if they could charge you less, they would. They charge you as little as they can and get away with it, because they know that they want you to buy it, but they know you want to pay as little as possible for it. So it's the same thing with bikes. Bikes, for the most part, are the same way, and that's been true with TVs. And it's crazy how cheap TVs are compared to what features you get, and if you compare them over time, it's nuts. And you don't even really have to know anything about TVs to shop for them. Really, you can literally just look at the price tag and go, all right, there's a bunch of 65-inch TVs here, and these are all the prices. That one's $350. It's a piece of crap. Like, I don't have to know anything about TVs to know that, because it clearly must be, because they can charge me $350 for it, because this $500 one that's in the middle of the pack here is going to be significantly better, because if they could charge me $350, they would. Questions. Richard in Montreal. QC. What's QC? Quebec? Canada. Quebec is, okay, my wife and I were discussing this, and she told me, because I'm an idiot, that Quebec is both a city and a...
Well, there's Quebec City.
There's Quebec City, and then there's Quebec, what, the state?
Quebec, the province.
Yeah. Province. And
but
those
Quebec
are not...
City is Quebec City. I mean, it's like Kansas and Kansas City, right? So,
okay. All right. So Kansas is bigger than Kansas City, but...
It sure is.
Okay, and same thing here, right? Because there are counties in the United States, in Duval County and the city of Jacksonville, the Venn diagram is a circle. They overlap completely, and that's why I was curious.
Quebec is a province, which is akin to a state, but within the province of Quebec, there is a city called Quebec City.
Got it. Anyways, this is in Montreal, so that has nothing to do with anything. Richard undertook a basement renovation that has taken nearly 2 years to complete. It includes a home theater area, which we'll get to in a bit. But first, he'd like to decide on a TV for his new home gym. The weight room is small. It's 9 by 12. His treadmill and stationary bike are just outside the weight room door. What? Okay, so there's stairs, I see. And then there's the weight room is like, you got doors on it, like French doors, it looks like. And then there's a mat in there. I see.
Yes.
I'm going to sneeze.
Okay. But yes. Inside, since it's a pretty small room, it's just the weight room is the enclosed room. And he's like, well, I don't have room for the stationary bike and the treadmill. Those goes outside of the weight room. And he's done a very nice installation with a wall-attached folding up weight bench. So he's making good use of the limited space in this enclosed room here.
Yeah. Okay. You keep going because I got to go blow my nose or something.
Okay, so yeah, there's a small window that's within the weight room, and just to the right of that window, there is a 44-inch wide by 34-inch tall space that he's marked out and pre-wired for where the gym television can go. So we already looked through the photos there, and he wants to have a fully articulating wall mount that can go on that spot so he can aim the TV in any direction, including perhaps going into the mirror that is directly opposite the weight bench so that he can see it from there without having to turn his head. His friend of him gave him a small TV mount that came from primecables.ca, and that small TV mount says that it will fit up to a 42-inch television, but it does note that the maximum Visa pattern on that articulating wall mount that he has from his friend is 200 by 200 millimeters. So he'd like the TV to be reasonably priced. It is just a gym TV after all. It's not for critical viewing, but he still wants good quality, and he'd like if its built-in apps could handle all of the major streaming apps that are in Canada. So he's particularly looking for Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Bell Fibe TV, which is one of our cable TV providers, and Crave. He does have an Apple TV that he could plug into it if necessary, but he'd prefer it just all built in so that there aren't extra wires to deal with. In addition to all of that, he has a Sonos Beam sound bar that he would like to use along with this setup. Ideally, he'd mount it directly below the TV and have the TV and the Sonos Beam all sit flush with one another and move together when he adjusts the articulating wall mount. He's pretty sure he's seen Sanus make a mount for the Sonos Beam that can do just that, but what all can we recommend for this gym TV setup? Tom is back. Any ideas?
Heard none of that.
Yes.
Well, I am sorry. That was, I just like, well, I decided to go get coffee too while I was doing it, but I just started sneezing uncontrollably, and I don't know what's going on with that. Yeah.
Well, we were just talking about, how OLED prices have come down, and so you might be like, am I really going to put an OLED in this situation? But I have to make the argument here, so physically, when you've got 44 inches of width, you could fit a 48-inch diagonal OLED. And right now, if you're checking on Best Buy Canada, the, what is this? It's the B4, so it is last year's model, but I wouldn't worry about that at all. It is on our early Boxing Day sale for Best Buy Canada, $900. So that's not, the cheapest thing ever. But if you're considering, I'm getting a 48-inch OLED for 900 Canadian dollars, I think that's a pretty good deal. The B5 is $1,000, but there's not really much reason to spend even $100 more to go from the B4 to the B5 in this case. And then if you were saying, I want the even smaller 42-inch OLED size, well, that is not available in the B series. You'd have to go to the C series for that. And it's $1,200 to get the 42-inch C5, and the C4s aren't available anymore. So to me, it doesn't really make a ton of sense to do that. I think the 48-inch B4 makes a heck of a lot of sense. Now, one thing to note here is that with any of these LG OLEDs, the VESA mounting pattern, the 42-inch or the 48-inch, the VESA mounting pattern is 300 by 200. So it wouldn't work with the mount that you got for free from your friend, because that goes to a maximum of 200 by 200, and these need a minimum of 300 by 200, so you would be buying a new articulating wall mount. If you do that, I'll have a link for one that I'm going to recommend in just a moment. But if you were to say to me, 900 Canadian dollars is just plain more than I was looking to spend, and
I wouldn't blame you. This is a workout room. We do not need to spend nearly a grand.
But I'm just thinking, like where the OLEDs have the huge advantage is the off-axis viewing, right? You can view it from any weird angle, and it's not going to look washed out, or the colors are not going to fade. You can view it from any angle with an OLED, and it's going to look spectacular. So if that budget is not offensive to you, it's a heck of a good TV you could get for that. But if you just want to spend less, and he mentioned like 45 inches is around the size, if you don't want to go larger than that, one I can point you to, I'm not like over the moon about this TV, but for 400 Canadian dollars, you can get from TCL. Again, this is going back to last year, but that's how you get the better price, and I see no reason to avoid doing that in this case.
I bought a TV from last year, so let's not disparage that.
So you can get the 43-inch TCL Q651G from 2024 for 400 Canadian dollars right now, and it has a 200 by 100 VESA mounting pattern that will work with the mount that you already have for free. So there is no question this would be the cheapest solution. Like I say, I don't think this is the greatest TV ever, particularly in this side where you really don't have any local dimming zones or anything like that. But it's like, yeah, if you just want to have a perfectly reasonable, viewable image in your gym that you could use for a very low price, then yeah, the 43-inch Q651G from TCL is something I can get behind there. So yeah, then as far as if you did go with the OLEDs and you needed a new mount for that, I would direct you to Pearl Smith, which you can just get from Amazon.ca. $50 will get you their fully articulating mount that is perfectly up to the task of handling anything in the 40 to 50 inch screen size. 400 by 400 is the maximum VESA pattern on that, so it'll work totally fine. And then he was asking about taking the Sonos Beam that he already has and mounting it below the TV, but on the same swivel mount so that everything moves together as one. You mentioned the Sanus, which they absolutely do have a solution. It's about 110 Canadian dollars. So I was like, can we do any better than that? And you can over at Amazon. The company Mount It. They're selling through Amazon.ca, and they have a very similar mount. Very easy. This is meant specifically for the Sonos sound Beam sound bars, and so yeah, works really well. Keeps all the ports open, connects very easily to any of the mounts that you might use. Then there is another option. I should just mention that Mount It one is selling for 64 Canadian dollars. So yeah, a little bit more than half the price of the Sanus one. That one though is at the moment I was looking at it on Amazon.ca, a little bit of a delay in the shipping. Wouldn't arrive until after Christmas. So if you want one that's going to arrive before Christmas, the company Flexon, they're selling virtually exactly the same thing for $90 though. So if you're willing to pay a $30 premium, but to have it before Christmas, that could be one way you could go.
Okay. I will say that while I would generally agree that, not that anybody has said this other than me, I would generally agree that I would want to spend as little as possible on a TV that I was just going to put into a workout room. Yeah. There is something to be said by that off-axis response or viewing angles. The idea here, if you think about it, is you will have an articulating mount, but you will be moving throughout this process in one form or another. You will not be in the same spot. So you'll take the TV, you'll move it out, and you'll face it towards wherever you'll be working out. If it's gonna bother you that when you change positions on the weight bench or the floor or whatever you're doing, that the TV is going to have to be re-angled in order for you not to have that washed out look, you're going to interrupt your workout half a dozen times very easily. So how much is that worth to you not to have to do that? Yeah. Just because you've gone from working out on the bench to working out on the floor, working out on the bench facing one direction and flipping 180 degrees and going the other direction. There is something to be said by getting that OLED for that exact reason. Because even though you've got the articulating mount, you will still have to re-articulate it. That's right. Over and over again throughout your workout, unless you're going to be literally just doing bench press the entire time, or just doing one position the entire time. So now we're on to Richard's home theater area. Now that we've fixed his his workout room. To begin with, there's a door at the top of the stairs, so the basement is an enclosed area separate from the upstairs of the house, acoustically speaking. He also followed a lot of our previous advice when planning the construction of his newly renovated basement. He has contractor put blown-in cellulose insulation within the entire basement ceiling, not just the home theater area, and the drywall was all installed on resilient channels. Sorry. Speaking is hard. We had warned him to be careful if he went the resilient channel route. We said it can work well, but only if it's installed correctly, and that it can be very easy and common for it to be short-circuited by improper installation. But his contractor was very experienced using resilient channels, and he's confident it was all done correctly. We all found out. He went with a single layer of 5/8 inch drywall throughout, so it isn't maximum soundproofing, but he is pleased with the results, and he's glad to have listened to our advice from before. Given that the main area of the basement, of which the home theater area is a portion, is open to the rest of the basement, the volume of air takes on an irregular shape. But if he closes all the doors, he's calculated he's dealing with about 3,600 cubic feet of air in total. The ceiling throughout the basement is below 8 feet, just over 7 feet for most of it, and the home theater area is basically 12.5 by 12.5 by, let's say 7.5.
Yeah.
With his left wall and back wall being exterior walls, left and back, with very small windows at the top, and the right side is open to the wet bar and wine rack, and then the opening to the rest of the basement. So we'll see some.
I've been showing photos.
I'm looking at photos now.
Yes, indeed.
So this is awfully close to the treadmill that we were seeing before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. This is all outside of the weight room. It's just to the. I mean, it shares a wall with the weight room. The shared wall will be where the TV gets hung in the theater area.
All right. So we did a whole bunch of pre-wiring. The theater area is pre-wired for up to 5.3.2. All of the pre-wiring terminals. Terminates in the equipment closet to the right of the TV wall. He ran a whole bunch of Cat 6 and Cat 6A. He also ran ultra high-speed HDMI and multi-mode duplex fiber optic cabling for future expansion. The HDMI was run inside a conduit, so it can be replaced in the future if necessary. He doesn't have his middle Atlantic equipment rack inside the closet just yet, but he installed an AC Infinity dual fan cooling system that will vent hot air to the out to the right side of the equipment closet, which means it's just going to go into the room that he's in, but it'll at least
get out of the closet there. At least. Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah.
So we're seeing pictures of all that. Looks very nice.
Sure are.
A lot of cables on the ground.
There's a lot of cables that have been run inside of that closet.
Yeah. The choices for all of the home theater equipment are wide open. He'd really like for us to brainstorm out loud. What would we purchase if we were in his situation? He is willing to spend a good amount for whatever makes sense, but don't go crazy on the price. He's well aware that at some point it's diminishing returns. So don't worry about that, because neither one of us, I refuse to spend extra money on things because of performance differences that are not there, but I will occasionally suggest something that I think looks better.
Sure.
In his email, he put at the very end, and almost as a bit of an afterthought, he admits that he hasn't given it much thought yet, but what should he do in the way of acoustic treatments? We'll need to be aware that he wants to wall mount his speakers, his front wall where the TV will be mounted, and his back wall just behind his L-shaped couch have been pre-wired for on-wall speakers. But we can also see from his photos that the front 3 speakers do not strictly have to be on wall, so that's a strong preference. It's laminated vinyl cork flooring throughout, so the only somewhat absorptive thing in there right now is the couch. How would we go about acoustically treating the space, given the aesthetics are a major concern, and in addition to the acoustic performance? Oh yeah, so I mean, I'd go to Acoustimac at the very least, and
for sure,
and look at their printed panels that have like art-ish sort of things on here. This is so. If you look at the room itself, it's got sort of a brown, like wood grain looking floor, gray walls, white cabinets. Looks like there's some white walls in there too, maybe the white ceiling. So it's sort of neutral colors. This is screaming for like a pop of color throughout.
Yeah.
And you could definitely do that with acoustic panels, and I would be spacing them evenly throughout the space, as much as you could get away with. You could certainly do that with the input of your significant other, who I assume has very negative thoughts when it comes to acoustic panels, because I've never met one that didn't.
Looking at this blank wall, which is a small window directly behind the couch.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's got to get treated. You have got to put panels there. And yeah, certainly, I mean, one option is to just get plain neutral colored panels if you don't want any decoration. But yes, Acoustimac would make a ton of sense here for a nice printed artwork. You can even have it span across multiple panels. That's a thing they can easily do. So behind your seat for sure. Now, as we always say, go as thick as you can. Try not to go less than 4 inches thick. But because he really doesn't have a walkway behind the couch, I actually think that's more possible to do in a situation like this. Sometimes it's more difficult when you have a narrow walkway that you need to be able to use as a walkway to say, oh, I'm going to have thick acoustic panels. But it's like, no, that is just... He has like a 1 foot gap from the wall to the back of the couch. And it's like, well, what else are you going to do back there? Like that should be some nice, thick acoustic panels, certainly on the back wall. Now, I'm going to suggest, and look, you don't have to do this, but this is an idea of mine, because the two main places that you want to treat as far as reflections go in a setup like this are the wall directly behind your couch, and that is a for sure. I don't see how you don't do that. But then also the front wall. Now, that's a little bit more of a challenge if all of your speakers are wall-mounted. It's not impossible. You can still work around whatever gaps there are, and you can have panels that are behind the TV. Those aren't going to be catching like direct first reflections, but they're just going to overall absorb some of the reverberation in this room. So that's a given to me. But I'm looking at the way this front area where the TV is going to go is set up, and I'm like, I don't know that I would do on-wall speakers. Like, having it all pre-wired, that's great. It's still going to be wonderful and hidden, but I'm like, why can't we have speakers that are sitting on that shelf that's going to be directly below the TV? To me, that makes sense, which just opens up that much more space to have some panels that are on this front wall.
You pull them proud of the alcove that it would basically sonically it will be better.
And I mean, not to spoil things, we're going to be talking about speaker recommendations, and all the ones I'm going to be mentioning, you could use them either way. You could use them either wall-mounted if you really, really want to, but they're all going to be options that you could just put on the shelf there and use them as basically bookshelf style speakers or regular center speakers. So, elsewhere though, it's like overall, you're going to need some just general decay time trying to bring that down, because this is mostly hard, flat, reflective surfaces in this basement setting. So it's like, back wall, 100%. There's no world in which I don't say treat the back wall.
I just fill up the interior area back there as much as you could, even the stuff underneath, directly behind the couch, close to the floor. Just fill it up. And then front wall as much as you can, but then if you are able to, because I'm basically looking at all the edges of the ceiling of this room, because you already have like a soffit that's going across much of the ceiling in here. So it's like matching that aesthetically with something very plain, not decorative, something very plain that just sort of matches the soffits in this ceiling here. To me, that's maybe an option, because that what I'm getting at is I want something as thick as you can possibly get to just bring down overall decay time into the crossover region between speakers and subs in here. And that's going to be a little bit of a challenge. So since you are in Canada, and availability is a little bit different, but you're in Quebec, which means you're close enough to Ontario that shipping from Ontario to Quebec is not going to be too much of a problem. There's a couple of companies that are Canadian specific. So one of them is Einity Acoustics. And if you're getting bass traps, this would be a great place to buy from, because unless you're making your own, because you could just get your own supplies and make your own. But if you want to buy fully pre-made bass trap panels, Einity Acoustics in Canada is one of the best deals. Now, it's a little bit tough for me to recommend for all of Canada because they only ship via FedEx, and it costs as much in shipping as it does for the panels themselves. But if you can drive to Ontario and pick these up, or shipping to Quebec might be less than shipping them out to BC where I am, that's going to be a great solution. Now, they don't have like the fully printed stuff like Acoustimac has, but I'm saying for the bass traps, I just want plain colors that are going to blend in with the walls. If that doesn't work, there is I didn't make a picture of it, so I'm just going to mention them. Acoustic Panels Canada, that's another option. But for their bass traps,
perhaps the price is considerably higher, so they're not quite as good a deal. So between Acoustimac and Einity Acoustics, I think you can treat this room very effectively.
Yeah, I'm looking at that soffit that you're talking about. The problem is that it comes down midway through one of the windows. Yep. So if you were to match it up all the way across, you'd be covering half the windows all the way, both front and rear. And then
but I'm just thinking he's got lots of edges to work with, right? And the ceiling is already lowered in a portion. So if you had some panels on the ceiling or in the edges of this room, it's not going to aesthetically look out of place because you already have a section of the ceiling that's down. That's where I was coming from on that.
Yeah. All right. Scroll. Let's do some subwoofers next. On their previous advice, he pre-wired for potentially putting subwoofers on his side walls, but he also noticed the space between the right side of his couch and the wet bar, so he pre-wired for a potential subwoofer there too. He only intends to have 2 subwoofers, though, not 3. So he had it in mind 2 years ago when he started the basement reno to go with SVS cylinder subs, but can you even get those anymore in Canada? Which sub should he buy, and what to get if SVS cylinders aren't an option anymore? So yeah, it's an irregular space when it comes down to, but to me, that's people get really bent out of shape about like, oh, it's not a perfect rectangle. It's not a perfect square. It's not a perfect rectangle. It's got a little bump out here. It's got a little alcove here for this or whatever. It's got stairs. Like, hey, is it overall kind of a rectangle-ish? Like, if it were a rectangle, where would the rectangle be? Are there some
parallel walls? And yes, there are.
Yeah. So, I personally think if your initial plan of putting them across the room from each other is certainly where I would start doing these things. The one right next to you is probably not going to do anything other than add problems, would be my guess.
The one thing I would say is that it's not out of the question to me that because he could just run a subwoofer cable that goes from the AV receiver that's going to be in that equipment closet and have a sub there, basically right in front of that column, or even you could perhaps, put it into that equipment closet and have an opening there, in which case directly across from that would be that, space in between the couch and the wet bar. So having these, middle of the front wall, middle of the back wall, which means both subs are to the right of the home theater area, but they're like middle of the front wall, middle of the back wall as far as the sort of overall space goes. That's not out of the question to me, and it wouldn't require him doing, rewiring because the equipment closet is already there at the front. So, if you're doing that, it would make more sense to have box-shaped subs if you're doing front wall, back wall. If you're doing the side walls, I do still like cylinders just because those are in areas where someone could be walking, and if somebody, brushes against the cylinder, it's never going to be a problem. It doesn't have any corners and it's covered in industrial carpets. So, the good news is you can still get the cylinder subs. In fact, both models of them in Canada. It's easier to still get the PC 4000, the big ones, in Canada than it is in the US. Because Canada, SVS's own Canadian website still sells the PC 4000s, but that's a bit of overkill, honestly, for this room size, and they are 3,000 Canadian dollars each, which is a discount at this point from where they were at one point, but that is a lot to spend on subs. It would make more sense to get a pair of the PC 2000 Pros, and while the SVS Canadian website is not selling those directly anymore for some reason, Summit Hi-Fi still has them. They're $1,850 Canadian, so it's not exactly chump change, but that's a lot less, and they're honestly a bit more appropriately sized. So if you're going to do the sidewall placements, I would still definitely look at the PC 2000 Pros, and you can get them from Summit Hi-Fi. If you're going with the box subs, there's no better deal he's probably still going for a smaller footprint. So HSU, the VTF TN1, those are $1,250 US. So you're looking at over $2,000 by the time they land in Canada, but still less than the PC 4000s for sure. And those have an 18.5-inch square footprint. So the footprint's a little bit bigger than the cylinders, but not drastically so. So I think one of those is the way to go.
All right. Given the way he constructed the front wall, the TV choice and the front 3-speaker choice needs to work together. So let's tackle that. He has built-in custom cabinetry below where the TV and center speaker will go. So he's working with a fixed amount of space. He's got 116 inches from left to right and 52 inches of height. I cannot express to you how little I like built-ins for this thing, but you're there.
Well,
so
it's here now. So
it's here now. So that's kind of what you're working with
that's
here.
Right.
So his L-shaped couch is currently a foot away from the back wall, which should be filled up with as much insulation as humanly possible. And his wife is happy with that location. That puts their eyes about 9.5 feet from the front wall itself. When they're sitting in their favorite spot, naturally the screen of the TV could be a bit closer if they put it on a wall mount with a little bit of depth, which is what I'm going to recommend.
Yeah.
He's been thinking getting an OLED all along, but the 97 inch is simply too expensive. Plus, it wouldn't leave him any space below the TV for the center speaker. We previously said not to go any smaller than an 83-inch OLED size. So is that the right choice here? An 83-inch OLED would basically give him 10 inches of space below it for the TV speaker. And for those of you that aren't looking at the pictures, he's not talking from ceiling to the bottom here. There is a thing,
an
like
alcove where the TV is going to go.
Thing, yeah. So there's a thing across the top.
Yeah.
And there's the cabinets on the bottom, and then there's the alcove in between.
Yeah.
So it's not full on ceiling here. What he's talking about. So TV too high, all that stuff. So we previously said not to go with anything smaller than 83. If that's what you should buy, what exact model of 83-inch OLED should he get? Is there another 85-inch TV they should consider instead? And then which wall mount should he use for it? Yeah, so I mean, we generally recommend the C series OLEDs and this price.
I mean, that's a very safe recommendation. It's pretty hard to go wrong with that if you go that route. Now, look, if price is a consideration, you've spent money elsewhere, getting the B series 83-inch OLED to match your budget. Like, you're not going to have the two of them side by side comparing on the rare occasion when the higher peak nits that the C series can provide over the B. Like, it's not going to make much difference at all. So, yeah, I mean, look, if you got money to burn, can the G series get brighter than any of them for those peak highlights? Yes, it can. You know, it is actually the brightest OLED that's out there. But I would get an LG. That's first and foremost. Because any of the 83-inch ones, it's all LG panels anyway. So I would get an LG. Whether it's the B series, the C series, or the G series, you really cannot go wrong. So yeah, I mean, I would just get whichever one fits your budget and be very happy with it. Don't buy a second one and put it directly side by side.
Yeah. There you
go. And for the mount, I'd go to Amazon and I'd get the Echo Gear. The one that's, appropriate for this size. So I'll link to it. It's 140 Canadian dollars, which is way less expensive than a lot of the other ones. Not the very cheapest, but what I like about this one is it has I've already put the mount on the wall, and then it turns out it's not quite perfectly level. You can level it after it's already on the wall. So that's what I like about the Echo Gear, and I think that's worth an extra $20.
I like the idea of pulling this thing forward, too, within this thing.
Absolutely.
It definitely gives you...
the better field of view if you want it.
Yeah.
Yep.
The problem is that the three speakers are going to end up, no matter how you do this, they're just going to flank the TV all the way around.
Yeah.
Which means that as far as getting them as wide as I would like them to be is not going to be an option here. Unless I'm missing something here, I have to scroll.
It's
back
not too bad though.
Pictures.
It's you got almost 10 feet going across, so that's a perfectly decent spread.
So for the speakers, he already installed 2 pairs of in-ceiling speakers. He went with the Sonos by Sonance in-ceilings. Sonos by Sonance. That's easy to say. And they're already connected to a Sonos amp for the whole house audio purposes. But on our previous device, he went ahead and positioned one of those pairs as top middles. He wasn't ever thinking of Atmos as a priority, but we said if he was going to put a pair of in-ceiling speakers above the theater area anyway, he might as well put them as top middles should go. So that's what he did. He figures he can simply unhook that pair from the Sonos amp to try them out as actual top middles with his AV receiver if he wants to. And if they don't blow his mind, he can go back to just using them as part of his Sonos system. No real risk there. I will tell you, when I was at my friend's house in Birmingham, he had surround backs. And I was giving them a hard time about surround backs. I'm like, how little do you notice them there? And he's like, I don't really notice them that often. And we were watching, I think we were watching Across the Spider-Verse. And at one point, we both looked at each other and said, hey, look at the back right speaker just did something.
Hooray!
He's like, yay! Because that's. But I think you will notice the top middles a little bit more than that. So what he needs to decide on the 5 speakers that will serve as front 3 plus his wall-mounted surrounds on the back, as mentioned previously, he strongly prefer on-wall front 3 speakers too, but with the built-in cabinets below where the TV will go. It isn't strictly necessary. Aesthetics are a big concern, but his main consideration is the physical fit. As we mentioned when talking about the TV, the 83-inch with the 83-inch OLED installed, it'll have basically 10 inches of height below the TV, and then spaces to either side. So can we talk about what his best options are for speakers here? I need to look back at these pictures and see what we're talking about.
Well, I got 3 suggestions that I think are all going to work pretty nicely here. Now, one that I actually think might be my top choice, like he asked, what would I seriously consider myself if this were my situation? And it's like, so you've got a bit of an open space. The actual distance from you to the speakers is not that great. So I'm not worried about the direct sound needing to be super efficient and super loud. But I do want pretty decent extension, into the crossover region, because you're going to have a couple of pretty darn beefy subs and you're going to be relying on those. But yeah, ultimately what I landed on is I think Argylle might be a very nice choice here. The 1961 series, the tweeter woofer that can be used as either a center or as a vertical left-right. I think that's a pretty darn nice choice here. And it's available in both black and white. So if you want the white finish instead of the black, that's a perfectly reasonable option. So you got the whole series here, the 1961 series from Argylle, and whether it's the woofer tweeter woofer, the regular bookshelf, or the tri-pole speaker, or the wedge-shaped speaker, all of those are 6 inches in depth and completely wall mountable. They have keyhole mounts on the back, and then another thing Argylle does that I like is they have a very small VESA mounting pattern. So if you wanted to use VESA wall mounts for these instead, you could, and that way you can tilt them or angle them or something like that as they're wall mounted similarly to a TV. So yeah, you're going to have to consider whether the price point is where you want to go with these, but I mean, these are not unreasonably priced in any way, and I like that they have a little bit more base extension than what I'm going to answer next, and then just looks and output wise, I think they're a very reasonable solution. So that's one consideration. Now, another one is fairly obvious. It's going to be the RBH Impression series. They have a full selection of on walls, but then they also have just the regular bookshelf models as well. And then you have your choice of going with the dome tweeter or the folded ribbon tweeter here. That's purely going to be what is my budget here? If you can go up to the folded ribbon tweeters, I would. But you have a choice of, woofer tweeter woofer design, then just the regular two-way tweeter and woofer, which could definitely serve as your surrounds. And then you also have the wedge-shaped model, which if you end up mounting those surrounds up a little bit higher, maybe you end up wanting to go with the wedges just to have them angled down at you a little bit. The Argylle and the RBH Impression series, pretty darn similar in price point. And my personal leaning here is a little bit more towards the Argylle in this room, just because they have the little bit deeper base extension than do the RBH Impression series. But that's, a little bit of splitting hairs. Maybe you like the looks of one better than the other. Now, at a different price point above either of those, I'm going to mention Ascend Acoustics and their Duo, the Sierra Duo, as the woofer tweeter woofer design. And then there's the Sierra Luna, which is the two-way, just the tweeter and the woofer. If you're going to get these, get the Rowell ribbon tweeters. I mean, you're not going to get Ascend Sierra speakers and not get the Rowell ribbon tweeters. But that puts them into a completely different price category. But more finish options with these. And again, they're about 6 inches in depth, so you can wall mount them or use them as bookshelf speakers. Either or is going to work perfectly fine. Those are I'd end up with one of those myself.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with any of these. I do like the idea of the KEF speakers as well.
Sure,
I don't know if the height would work, but it does allow you to get, because I was looking at the RBHs, right? And you could get the basically the LCRs, and then you would have 3 identical speakers.
That's right.
For your center. Of course, your center would be turned over on the side, but the other two could stand up.
The two-way for the surrounds is going to work great.
Yeah. I guess the reason why I want to recommend the KEFs is, first of all, clearly, you're interested in having a good price for performance, going on here. And it's also really nice, in my mind, to put speakers up that people don't know what they are, so they have to ask you about, what are those? I've never seen those before. But sometimes you want to have something that people do know. Okay. And the KEF speakers are unique enough that people will be impressed looking at them, especially if you don't put a grill on, which you should never do, put a grill on a KEF speaker as far as I'm concerned. But but also they're like, oh, I can actually see those at stores and stuff like that. Like with the Arendelle, you're like, this is a black box. It's just it's a company that nobody's ever. Yeah, or a white box. That's right. It's just a company that nobody's seen before, but it just doesn't look like anything impressive. Whereas the Kefs kind of do.
Sure.
So, but all of these would work.
That's 4 very good choices.
Yeah. So which AV receiver should he get to handle all of this, and where in Canada can he buy it? The 3800 would be my go-to.
Given the way prices are in Canada, for this, it makes more sense to me to go with the X3800H from Denon. You're going to buy it from Gibby's. Gibby's is, our best bet for getting reasonable prices on AV receivers in Canada, and they're in Ontario as well, so shipping's going to be easy to you in Quebec. So yeah, the X3800H, you can get a B stock, which is, we're always recommending accessories for less for people in the States. The closest thing to that is Gibby's in Canada. So 1,800 Canadian dollars is the X3800H. I would consider, going with Dirac Live base management in a room like this if you want to pay the extra money. I wouldn't say no outright. I'm not going to say you have to do it, but I wouldn't say no to it. Now, the Onkyos in the States are definitely the better price deal, but it's like, even the B-stock ones, getting them in Canada, the Onkyo prices are just nowhere near as good a deal. So I would probably want to point you towards the RZ, or RZ, I should say, because we're in Canada, the RZ30. But it's 2,000 Canadian dollars, which doesn't make much sense to me. I would definitely take the B-stock X3800H over paying $2,000 for the RZ30. The TX NR7100 is available for 1,500 Canadian dollars from Gibby's as B-stock, but it doesn't have any of the pre-outs. It can't do Dirac Live base management. It's not even an option on that one, and it's only $300 more for the X3800H. So ultimately, I think that's the best deal in Canada. It's getting a B-stock Denon X3800H from Gibby's.
All right. Glenn used to have a Yamaha Pre-Pro. In the main zone, its pre-outs were connected to an Emotiva XPA9 amplifier, which is powering, or was powering, I don't know, his Ascent Sierra speakers. Then he had its Zone 2 pre-outs connected to Y splitters, and the Zone 2 signal was going to 2 different Emotiva Basox A400Z distribution amps. Mm-hmm. The Yamaha Pre-Pro has 2 trigger outputs, so he was using 1 trigger output to control his 9-channel amp for the main zone, and he split the second trigger output to control Zone 2. It all worked perfectly, and he could control Zone 2 from his phone app with the 2 distribution amps only powering on when needed and powering back off whenever Zone 2 was turned off. But he replaced that Yamaha Pre-Pro with the Denon X3800 receiver and only has 1 trigger output. He actually considered getting the 4800H instead, strictly because it has 2 trigger outputs, but he simply could not justify the higher price for that one feature alone. Well, this might be a buy once, cry once situation, but we'll see here. But now he's stuck. He could split that single trigger output 3 ways, but then all 3 of his amps would turn on and off together, and he would rather have the Zone 2 amp only turn on when needed. Is there an elegant workaround? I don't know if it's going to be elegant, but I'm sure Rob has one. The question... So other than you don't want these amps to turn on for no reason, will sound come out if the amps turn on? Would be the first question I would ask you is so if these amps turn on, are you going to suddenly start hearing things? And if the answer is no, then who cares if the amps turn on? They're really probably not sucking that much power anyways.
It is more than leaving them in standby, though.
It is more than leaving them in standby, but I imagine that the price delta between the 3800 and the 4800 is greater than all the electricity you will use by not having a second trigger output. But let's see what Rob's solution is for this.
Well, it's because there is a company called Bob Wire. That's where the Bob was coming from.
Oh, is it really? I didn't even see that.
Yeah, so they have various little trigger devices, which the one you'd want to look at is the AAT1, which is very simple. There's a left-right RCA input, so that's obviously coming from the, in this case, the Zone 2 pre-outs. And then there's a left-right RCA output, which is just passing the audio signal through. But what this does is the RCA signal detection. And there's actually a little potentiometer on this thing, so you can choose how sensitive it is. But it means that once sound starts coming out of those Zone 2 pre-outs, like any signal sensing amplifier, it's just going to be like, hey, now there's a sound on this pre-out, and it just sends out a 12-volt trigger signal in response. That's all the AAT1 does from Bob Wire. Now, the issue is, because of tariffs, this thing costs twice as much in the States as it does in Canada. And so I don't know where you are, but it's a ridiculous price in the US right now. It's like close to $200 on this thing.
It's not close to. It says it's exactly $199.99.
Yes.
But it's not that much cheaper in Canada, because when I click on the Canada one, it says it's $173.
But that's Canadian dollars.
Oh, okay. I don't know what the conversion rate is, clearly.
It's quite a bit cheaper in Canada than it is in the US. So that's kind of ridiculous to spend that much on just a signal sensor to send out a 12-volt trigger. So it's kind of unfortunate because the Emotiva amps, they don't have automatic signal sensing, because that would be the easiest solution.
Right.
I mean, you could consider, I don't know, replacing the Emotiva distribution amps, because there are plenty of distribution amps that just have signal sensing, right? As soon as they get an RCA signal, they just power on and they power off after a certain amount of time of not having any signal on the RCAs. He suggested himself, like, could you do this with like a, some kind of power brick solution, a surge protector solution, where it's like, when the AV receiver turns on, it automatically powers on other outlets. But the Emotiva amps don't do the thing of just once you turn the power button on, that they're just on all the time. It's a standby, but like they have the hard power rocker switch, but then it's also just a regular standby button, and when it powers up, it's going to be in standby. So the pure power brick solution doesn't really work there either. So yeah, I don't know if there's a much better solution. You could look for other signal sensing ones, but the Bob Wire is the one that always comes up. So I don't know. Maybe maybe the price delta is not so much that just getting the 4800 wouldn't be the worst solution here, and having your 2 trigger outs again.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. All right. Julian's brother just ordered a refurbished Epson 5050 UB projector. That was on Julian's advice, which was actually our advice.
Yeah.
His brother has been using a small classroom projector, so this should be a very noticeable upgrade. His brother's old screen is a 100-inch manual pull-down screen from Elite. It has some physically curled edges at this point, and his brother would like to go up in screen size anyway, perhaps as big as a 120. This is a living room setup, and the room is white. He'd like to get a motorized screen this time, but it still has to be retractable since the screen comes down in front of the window. Well, that's what a motorized screen does. It goes up and down. Yes. So even if it's not motorized, it has to be retractable. It goes up and down in front of a window. The ceiling joists run just above. The ceiling joists above run perpendicular to the screen, so recessing the screen's cabinet into the ceiling is not an option. He likes something that looks nice but doesn't break the bank. What do we recommend? Doesn't Silver Ticket make a retractable screen?
That's the first place I look. So for their 120-inch diagonal size, the price on their own website, buying direct, is $1,827 for some very specific reason, but everything on Silver Ticket is out of stock right now. Everything's out of stock. And they have a message right on there that says, hey, contact their support, even if it says out of stock, because they aren't actually like unavailable, but you can't just add to cart right now. And that's like almost everything on Silver Ticket's website right now. I think it might have something to do with the current trade situation that's going on. But I wanted to have that up there just as an example of the price, because there are right around the same price or less expensive alternatives that I think are well worth considering. So Elite Screens is going to be the other one that has affordable options here. And I'm going for ones that have a white outer casing, so it's going to match the white walls. So pretty much the least expensive one that you can just add to cart and order directly from Elite Screens is going to be their VMAX. And I like that it is tab tensioned, right? That's very helpful for a roll down screen, having the tab tensioning so that there's no waves in the screen. I like that. And the Silver Ticket one is not tabbed, or you know what? It is, right? Is the Silver Ticket one tab tensioned? I can't remember. It doesn't quite look like it in the image, so I don't think that one is. But the Elite Screens VMAX definitely is tab tension. So this is going to be their plain neutral white screen, but you can get the 120-inch size for $1,307. I don't know where this 7 is coming from in these prices, but anyway, it's less expensive than the silver tickets, so I don't see much reason if you're going for a plain white screen that you wouldn't go this route. I like that it has the tab tensioning better as well. But I did want to consider, if it's a fully white living room, I know Tom absolutely hates ambient light rejecting screens as a general rule, but I'm not ruling it out in this case. I think it might be worth considering. Elite Screens in their Starling series, which is also tabs tension, they have their Cinegray 5D ambient light rejecting screen. Now, for the 120-inch size of that one, it's $1,974. So it's the most expensive, but it's not that much more expensive, $150 more than the silver ticket, which is just plain white and not tab tensioned.
Yeah, I would always go tab tensioned if you have the option. You'd be surprised how much a screen will move around if you don't have tab tensioned.
So overall, I think for price and reasonability and everything, the most reasonable one to go for is that VMAX from Elite Screens. I think it checks all the boxes if you're not worried about having ambient light rejecting, but if you are, at least there's an option from Elite Screens that can work with that Starling tab tension with the Cinegray 5D screen material.
There you go. I would go tab tension. As far as ambient light rejecting, I don't know.
And $1,300, not bad. Not bad for a fully motorized tab tension screen. Pretty good.
Yeah. Julian decided to invest in a Zidu. He mostly loves the experience with it, but the way it displays TV shows is a bit frustrating for the time being. He's found that TV shows work best for him if he just goes to the File Explorer and directly selects the Blu-ray logo. Mm-hmm. That way, it just launches the TV show disc exactly as if you put the physical disc into a Blu-ray player, and they can just navigate the disc menus from there. But that definitely isn't as slick and as easy as selecting from the movie poster interface. What he really wants is for the entire TV show to show up as a poster on the poster wall, and then when he clicks on the poster for that TV, it would display each disc back up separately, basically like a collection, but he hasn't found a way to make that work. The folks on the Zidu forum have suggested that what he needs to do is rip each individual episode as its own separate MKV file, and then Zidu will put all of those individual episodes into TV show collections. But is that really the only way? Does he have to spend the time to do all of that MKV ripping, or can Rob offer any? I'm glad that you specifically asked Rob, because clearly I'm going to be a huge help here. Or can Rob offer any advice or on an alternative way to get his TV show discs to show up the way he wants? Rob, fix it.
Yeah, so not 100% the way that you want. Yeah, I will say as far as handling TV show metadata and display, that's not like the Zidu's strongest suit. That's not the best thing it's at, and it definitely works better if you just do individual episodes as MKVs. Then it goes to the TV movie or the TV metadata database to pull down all its things. I think it separates them by season. It usually shows the show name and then each season as a separate poster. But then within each season, it just has the list of episodes because they're all individual MKV files, and it all plays very, very nicely. So if you want the best user experience, that is going to be it. And honestly, the process of ripping individual MKVs in the Make MKV software is not that bad at all, because when you just open up the TV show disc, it automatically does individual checkboxes for each episode right there. So, and it automatically creates individual MKVs. So it's not really that bad of a process. Of course, there's time to re-rip the disc if you already did a backup before. But you can do the Make MKV process from the disc file backup that you made rather than from the physical disc. So rather than putting the physical disc back into a drive, you can just load the file, the backup file that you already made, and do your Make MKV conversions from there. So ultimately, I think that's probably the best solution, because about the only alternative that I know how to do is to manually create folders, because you can make your own folder for each TV show, and then you could manually organize each individual disc within each folder. So then you'd have a folder.
Sounds like a lot of work, I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah, and you have to do your own metadata manipulation too to have each disc show up as its own thing, because by default, it's not going to know what metadata to pull down, and you have to do all of that manually. So either of these is a bit of a time sink, but ultimately, I think doing the individual MKVs does make the most sense.
Infinite Gary, from our own viewing experience, how much of a difference do we think it makes when a movie is shot using IMAX cameras? Gary found an article on Collider that pointed out how even though there were more movies that were filmed for IMAX in 2025 than the previous year, only one of them, Sinners, used IMAX film cameras for its IMAX scenes. The other 13 filmed for IMAX movies in 2025 all used IMAX certified digital cameras for their IMAX portions. So does it make a noticeable difference in our opinion? Is it only something we notice when going to an actual IMAX theater, or is it noticeable no matter where you watched the filmed for IMAX movie? And what about movies that are shown in IMAX theaters, but none of the movie was actually shot using IMAX cameras? Do we even know this? In other words, is it the IMAX cameras or is it the IMAX projectors and screens that make a difference? So my thought here, because I've never thought about this before, because who cares? But my thought here is that if you were to put up the images that were filmed on an IMAX camera next to an image that was filmed on an IMAX certified digital camera on an IMAX screen side by side, it would be near impossible to I would think, to go, well, that one was clearly, unless there was something like some artifacts involved, where you would look at the one that was filmed with a certified digital camera and say, oh, look at that one's a little blurrier than this other one, which is super clear. I don't know that you would be able to discern a difference between them substantively. You might, say, well, this one's a little bit this and this one's a little bit that. Mm-hmm. But if it weren't the same scene with the same actors, the same lighting and the same settings on the camera, and even then, how could you attribute it just to being the camera itself and not one of those other things that were making the difference? So,
I mean, to me, given how good all of the digital cameras are that are out there, the only really noticeable difference to me between the IMAX certified digital cameras and all the other digital movie cameras is like just the aspect ratio, which is a choice. I mean, you could crop any of the digital cameras to have an a digital IMAX aspect ratio, but that's about the only noticeable thing, is that when it's done on a IMAX certified digital camera, they pretty much always show it in the 1.9 to 1 aspect ratio, whereas other digital movie cameras, not necessarily as the default 1.9 to 1, but there's not really any reason why it couldn't be. Like I say, you can always mask and crop whatever you need to get the aspect ratio if you wanted to, but it's not just like inherently obvious that it was an IMAX certified digital camera, other than the aspect ratio. Now, the full IMAX film cameras, again, it's the aspect ratio that's noticeable, because they're the 1.43 to 1, the closer to a square aspect ratio. That's the thing that's noticeable if you're seeing it in a full-on IMAX film theater or one of the IMAX Laser Grand theaters that has the full 1.43 to 1. So that's most noticeable at the movie theater, because you're not getting 1.43 to 1 at home, unless you're Zack Snyder and putting it on HBO Max and doing it in black and white for the Justice League movie. But outside of that, you're just going to see it in 16:9 or 1.9 to 1 anyway. So yeah, to me, the aspect ratio is the most noticeable thing. Because yeah, once you bring it to the home release, like the clarity of any of the modern digital movie cameras, it's not like massive difference, even the conversion from IMAX film cameras, they do look exceedingly clear and wonderful, but it's not that the other digital movie cameras that are out there, look inherently so much worse when you see it on the home release. So yeah, it's mostly the aspect ratio. That's where I see the difference.
That everything Rob said is true. At the same time, you know what camera works best for whatever is being filmed? It's the one that's most comfortable for the filmmaker to use.
I don't know. Well, for the filmmaker to use, sure, but yeah, certainly not for the camera operator. Those guys go through hell.
Yeah. So, when they know exactly what to expect from their camera, from their equipment, they are going to be able to get the best possible, or the image that most directly reflects the vision of the person who's filming it. Mm-hmm. So if you give them, if they're really used to IMAX cameras, then they're going to be best with IMAX cameras. If you're really used to digital cameras, they're going to be best with digital cameras. That's just, the way it is. There's plenty of people out there who have filmed movies and, recorded audio and created art with what other people would consider to be substandard equipment, but that has come out, beautifully because they know how to manipulate that equipment the best.
No, the one that's clearly different is full-on IMAX film cameras shown on a full IMAX film or grand theater setting. That one distinctly looks different, mainly because of the aspect ratio, but also because you do actually notice the clarity difference when the screen is that gigantic and that close to you. When you watch a movie in a full-on IMAX film theater that didn't use any IMAX cameras whatsoever, it just looks like any other theater. You're kind of sitting closer to the screen, but it just looks like any other theater. So I would say it's not either or. It's the combination. When you have the maximum film format on the maximum screen, that's the biggest noticeable difference.
Christian, as we mentioned in the comments, Christian got himself an 83-inch LG B5 OLED. Mounting that new larger TV resulted in him clearing out his entire equipment stand, so he took that as an opportunity to unplug everything, do a thorough cleaning, and put it all back together again. But once it was back up and running, something was strange. He had way more bass than usual, which was kind of cool at first blush, but ultimately didn't sound right. With his dual SVS PB1000 subs and an X3300W receiver and the MP Tech RBH Impression Series speakers all around, he reran Odyssey and it revealed a new problem. First, it immediately flagged his very large MP Tech E56 CI Center speaker as being out of phase. And you know what? It was right. He had flipped the red and black speaker wire leads. Easy fix. Thanks, Odyssey.
Yeah.
But then it said there was a phase problem with his front left EMP Tech R5B bookshelf speaker as well. And that one was not simply a wire lead problem, but there really was an issue. He tried moving the front left speaker to the He tried moving the front left speaker to the front right wire just to test it, and the problem stayed with the speaker. It seemed the tweeter is fine, but the woofer is basically dead. Not entirely so, since he can get it to make sound if he physically pushes on the woofer to get it to connect again. But on its own, the woofer doesn't play. Now, he has knocked that speaker over and had it fall on the floor more than once. Okay, then. And then he compared... And then compared to its big EMP Tech Center, the bookshelf fronts have always seemed a little small anyways. He's got $1,400 burning a hole in his pocket. Which new front, left, and right speakers do we think he should buy? He'd like for them to timbre match his EMP Tech Center, and he's kind of thinking he'd like towers, but if he gets some stable speaker stands and uses museum putty, finally, he should be able to use bookshelf speakers that won't fall so easily to the floor again, right? Well, stop knocking things over to start with.
The museum putty is a fantastic solution. He's already aware of it. He's thought of himself. He just never implemented it. I'm like, yes, if you are finding that speakers are falling off of their stands from being knocked into, you should definitely secure them with museum putty.
That's not going to stop him from... You're going to knock over a floor standing speaker if you try hard enough. So it's not going to stop him. He's just going to take the stand with it when it goes down.
A bookshelf speaker on a stand with museum putty where you have weighted down just the bottom portion of the speaker stand, right? So you get the hollow speaker stands. The ones from Monoprice are great because they can be filled with, kitty litter or sand or lead shot or whatever you want to do. But you don't fill them all the way up, right? You just fill like the lowest third of the speaker stand, and that for, center of gravity is way down there. If you knock that over, you really have to try.
Yeah.
But it'd be more stable than a tower speaker.
So any standout suggestions we think you should go for? Obviously, first of all, EMP Tech or RBH, whichever brand name they were operating under at the time, they made and they continue to make exceedingly neutral speakers. So you have options. Yeah. Obviously, the easy suggestion is to go with the Impression Series speakers that are out from RBH right now. There's no reason not to. Yeah. They certainly have options that you can go for, both floor standing and bookshelf, and the LCR ones, which are the towers in that series would be over the budget that you're looking to spend. Yeah. But I would go for the LCR one, the one that's woofer, tweeter, woofer. I'd mount them vertically. I would go with the dome tweeter in this case. If you wanted to match the center that you already own, I'd go with the dome tweeter one in this case, not the folded ribbon. And so if you do that, that's the 55i in the RBH Impression series, and that's $11.50 a pair. And I think that'd be a great way to go here. That'd be a fantastic choice. And it leaves you enough in the budget to get some speaker stands and some kitty litter to fill the bottom third of them with. You're gonna need speaker stands anyways, I suppose.
Yeah.
But you could also, I mean, there's any speaker product that we talk about on this podcast could be inserted in here. So
I mean, the thing is, those EMP techs, they did have a little mild high frequency roll off in their tweet.
I'm not super worried about that personally.
I'm not worried about it, but all that brought to mind is if you do want to get towers and you want to stay under the budget that you specified, I would point you to ELAC. The debut series in the ELAC. Now, specifically, I actually think the debut 2.0 series would be a very nice timbre match for the EMP Tech Center that you already have. And if you stick with the, it would be the DF62 is the exact model number, the ELAC debut 6.5-inch woofer tower speakers. They're on sale at Amazon right now for $840 a pair. So, I mean, that's a lower price for a full-on tower speaker that I think would match really nicely. If you want to get the brand new debut 3.0 series, then those are $1,300 a pair for the DF63 floor standing models. So yeah, if you want to get towers, they're available. I think ELAC would match really nicely in the debut series. But honestly, the easiest is get those 55i RBH impression series speakers.
Right, and then if you can stretch your budget a little bit, you could always get the RBH.
You could get the RBH towers.
Not just the towers, but you could get the bookshelves with a new center that have the ribbon tweeter.
That too. Yeah.
You know, I mean, you're going to stretch your budget quite a bit, but
that's yes.
You would end up with ribbon tweeters at the end. And I mean, I know you like your center speaker, which we're going to talk about in a second, but ribbon tweeter. So he loves everything about his big EMP Tech E56 CI center speaker. Why do they seem to be so very large, so few very large center speakers these days? It's just physics, right? I mean, it's just space, right? I mean, that's what it comes down to. It's really hard to place these things.
They're honestly trying to make them slimmer and slimmer so that they can fit below people's TVs. Because
the TVs are just like our friend who just had, who's got his built in there, right? A lot of people are working with trying to figure out how to get the bigger TV into the wall unit or the entertainment center or the between the ceiling and the mantle of their fireplace. They're trying to figure out how to get these TVs to fit, and then they're running out of room for center channels. Large center channels have never been super popular. They are with us because we care about sound, but they are not with the general population. And it's always been an issue that, I mean, I've been shopping for furniture like crazy lately because of the house and everything. So even when I'm not specifically shopping for entertainment units, because I'm not, I do see them, and every time I see them, I'm like, what center channel is going in there?
Right.
Like, what center channel is going in that hole? It's maybe 5 inches tall.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. I can put nothing in there.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I guess NHT, maybe, I guess. Almost
I gotta give credit to those Ascend Luna or the Ascend Duo, because they fit in a lot of places where other speakers don't, and they still sound good, but they're not the cheapest things. So, there's that. I don't know if I'd argue that there's so few. I mean, Paradigm has some absolutely gigantic center speakers. PSB's got big center speakers. Axiom's got big center speakers. Klipsch does. Some of Kef's aren't that small, I was going to say
Kef, yeah. Especially since with Kef speakers, you can just take any other speakers and put them on their side. Yes. And it's now a center speaker.
You go up to the largest, the higher price series in the Arundel, and they've got some massive center speakers there. Perlisson has humongous center speakers. So I'm not going to say, Revel does as well. So I'm not going to say it's that rare. I mean, a lot of them are essentially the tower speaker turned on its side with the drivers rearranged. I think there's quite a few of them still out there. I think maybe what you were looking at is, why aren't there any lower cost ones? Because the EMP Tech is definitely one of the lowest cost of these gigantic center speakers, and that's a little bit less common. But I don't think that's unreasonable for manufacturers to assume that if you're going for lower cost, you might also be looking for smaller size. That probably is a more common desire than gigantic physical size plus low price.
Well, I think that's exactly right. What you end up with is people who are, when they're going for the higher price, they're caring more about sound. Therefore, they are realizing that they need a bigger speaker to make that sound.
Yeah.
And with fewer compromises. So they are willing to entertain the idea of having a large center speaker, whereas somebody who's on a budget, they're not thinking that they're going to get, because they're on a budget, they're going to get larger speakers because it's cheaper to make larger speakers sound good. At least more bassy if they're large. They think, oh, I'm spending less money, I will get a smaller physical speaker, a physically smaller speaker.
So Dev's question looks way longer than it is, but actually that one's not too bad. And I'll just say, Dev, I'm so glad that kind of worked out, but we'll talk more in depth next week. Would you be willing to try Steve's? Because it's not a very long question, and it's for his daughter, and I'd love to answer it before we go.
It's both getting late and I have to pee. So between those two things, we're going to do this quickly. Steve is helping his daughter select a 5.1 speaker setup to go in her living room. Her TV is an LG G5 OLED. Aesthetics are a top priority. Jeez.
You did all right on the TV, I'll say that.
You're willing to spend money on the TV. Let's make sure that we spend as few cents as possible on the speakers.
That's not the case. It's not the price.
Anyways, she doesn't want any black boxes. Okay. Have you heard of KEF? Because they come in all kinds of colors. The living room is roughly 14 by 16, but it's open concept. She'll never be blasting anything at cinema reference volume, he says, but maybe. She prefer on-wall speakers, again, not black, and a very small subwoofer. He was thinking the RBH Impression Series on-walls in white, along with either RSL Speedwoofer in white or the even smaller SVS 3000 Micro. Looking at the RSL Speedwoofer subs got him to consider the white finish options on the CG23M speakers, which I guess are from RSL as well.
They're from RSL, that's right.
Okay. They're identified as bookshelf speakers, but they're small enough that it'd be easy to wall mount. So first up, what do we think personally about the RSL speakers versus the RBH Impression Series on walls? Strongly favor one over the other here, or is there something else he has to consider that should really be on the list? I don't know anything about the RSL speakers. But looking at a speaker and going, that should be easy enough to wall mount, is you should double check that math.
Those ones are easy enough to wall mount.
So, but generally speaking, I'm going to recommend you put it on a small shelf that you build, rather than trying to drill a hole in it and then put a keyhole mount on the wall or something like that. It's just overall going to be a lot easier for you to put that shelf up there and then dampen the underneath the speaker so it's not vibrating. Because I will tell you from experience, wall mounting speakers that are not meant to be wall mounted, and sometimes wall mounting speakers that are meant to be wall mounted, results in you having unwanted vibrations from the speakers rattling within the mounts. So just be aware.
Yeah, to me, these are in distinctly different price classes. I like the RSL speakers a lot for an entry-level system, and I love that they have the white finish option because it absolutely works great in situations like this. But yeah, to me, these are in definitely distinctly different price classes with performance to go along with it. The RBH Impression Series speakers, though, are, like the on-wall versions, are pretty bass shy. And so if you are willing to go to the price of the RBH Impression Series on-walls, I'm referring back to a question we had before that was also asking about on-wall speakers, and I think you're in a similar situation where the Argylle might be a really good choice here. Little bit better output capabilities, little bit better bass extension, 6-inch depth, and your choice, you could go with the woofer tweeter woofer or just the two-way, what they call bookshelf, but it's only 6 inches deep and has a keyhole mount on the back and a Visa mount on the back. So I think I might favor those and fully available in the white finish. So that's one you didn't consider, but we already talked about them previously on this very episode, and it has all the same arguments there. So yeah, I'd strongly consider that. Between the subwoofers, I mean, the RSL Speedwoofer sub is just such a better value, and it's like, isn't really not that much bigger. It's just such a better value. I mean, I like what SVS manages to get out of that 3000 micro, but it's not up to the same performance standard as the Speedwoofer, and then it costs so much more. So I would strongly favor the Speedwoofer there.
So he originally wanted to suggest a Denon X series receiver to power the system, but again, no black boxes. I had not realized that the receiver also fell into this category, but
there
interesting. She prefers the looks of the Marantz Cinema 50 and its silver finish option, but Steve is concerned about the Marantz sound. He did hear somewhere there's actually a way to turn that off and have it perfectly neutral sound instead. He'd actually like to be able to hear it both ways. So can we comment on the Marantz sounds on whether there's an option to turn it off? And Marantz and Denon in general, I mean, I'm sure if there's a sound to them, it's an EQ thing that you can un-EQ through whatever.
It's a mild high frequency roll off. That is what the Marantz sound is.
Yeah. But literally, who cares in this case? Because you're going to be in an open concept room where you're never hitting cinema reference volume. Where I mean, I don't even know how many speakers she's going to end up having. A 5.1 system in an open concept room. Yeah, you're having sound. Is what you're having. We're not having good sound. We're not having accurate sound. We're not having neutral sound. We're not having Marantz sound. We're having sound. And that's as much sound as we're going to get because we're not going for a subwoofer that can pressurize the space. We're not shopping on speakers based on performance as much as we are on looks and placement options. So this is like worrying about the shape of your ice cube in your drink. Sure, maybe it makes a difference in your experience of the whole thing, but really it's all in your head and how it looks. So don't worry about it.
No, I mean, it's kind of funny because Marantz finally basically made it explicit what the Marantz sound is, because on the Cinema 30 model and higher, meaning their pre-pros or the flagship Cinema 30 as far as the AV receiver lineup goes, they have in the audio menu a DAC filter setting that lets you choose whether it is applying the Marantz sound, which they have as the default and they're recommended, or a completely flat neutral sound, which is why would I want anything else from my AV receiver? But it's finally explicit exactly what it is, and the Marantz sound is a mild high frequency roll-off. That's all it is. So where you heard about there is a way to turn it off, well, it's only in the Cinema 30 or in the AV20 or the AV10 Pre-Pros. It's not available in the Cinema 50 or the Cinema 40. That's in between those. But it's as simple as if you can use the Odyssey Editor app, it overrides it back to whatever the Odyssey target curve is. Right. So that's the very simple way to undo it. Now, the only other thing I'll mention here is this seems very clearly to be a case where the actual price is not as important as the looks. He's willing to spend some extra money here if it gets the looks. I don't know if you've considered the JBL receivers, but I think you should. Because if aesthetics of the receiver box is a top priority, the JBL receivers, I think, look even nicer, and they're not like crazy expensive priced. They're a very reasonable
only
choice
doing 5.1, and EQ in here is not going to make any difference whatsoever. Odyssey is not going to make any difference. Marantz sound is not going to make any difference.
No.
You're fighting the room. If you're not going to go all the way up to DRAC Art and then hope it makes a difference, then and even then you wouldn't have the subwoofer power to do it anyways. So have a look at the JBL AV receivers. You might not have considered them. They might not have leapt to mind. I am betting dollars to donuts that your daughter is going to really like the looks of those, perhaps more than the I would
Marantz.
Still look at Kefs. I'm being honest with you. They come in like every color, in color combinations and everything.
It's just the Kefs have fewer options for on-wall mounted speakers.
You would have to put them on a shelf, and they would be larger than she is willing to accept. But as far as color combinations go, they're.
And by the way, if you went with the RBH on walls, that's not a bad choice.
No.
And if you went with the RSLs for price purposes, it's not a bad choice. But they are in different price categories. Yeah.
Yeah, they are. All right. So who we have left? Just Dev?
Just Dev, yeah.
All right. We want to thank our listeners a week. We want to thank Glenn, who went to avrant.com and clicked on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link and sent us a PayPal donation, as well as our 122 patrons over at patreon.com.
Yes, thank you so much, Glenn, for that PayPal donation. Very nice of you. Appreciate that financial support. And our 122 patrons over at patreon.com/AVRant podcast, where you can go to sign up to make an automatic monthly donation if you want to. So big thanks to everyone there, 122 patrons.
We want to thank Richard and Glenn for double-checking with us about their missing emails. And if you have not gotten your question answered, just hit us up at question@avrant.com, and we will answer you right away, at least, and let you know that, we did not get that question, and we will answer you on the podcast.
So if you are hearing that,
send it again.
Thank you to Richard and Glenn, because if they had never double-checked, we would not have known that was the case. Not just one where I could have gone back and checked the spam filter and be like, this accidentally got misclassified. It's like, nope, it just never came to us. So question@avrant.com. It seems to be working now. We seem to have received all of this week's questions, so send it again.
We also want to thank Glenn for talking us up to Ascend Acoustics.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn.
And Julian for continuing to put movie codes up on for me to test out.
That's right. Thank you, Julian.
And lastly, we thank those who sent in notes of gratitude, including Richard, Glenn, John, Julian, Christian, Dev, and Steve. Thank you for thanking us.
Yes, I'll say the names one last time. We got Richard, Glenn, John, Julian, Christian, Dev, and Steve. Thanks so much for the notes of gratitude and encouragement. Really appreciate those. Big thank you to everybody who continues to listen and send in your questions.
Again, send in your questions to a question at avrant.com. For AVRant, I'm Tom Andrew.
And I'm Rob H. Now go out and listen to something.
Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.